there we go. Howdy, howdy. Alright, today is a day. And I am gonna not work on this again. I'm gonna start a new painting. This one I am calling finished, even though I still, like some of these lines are very, very loose, but I'm okay with that. Like, these are pretty much just scribbles. But yeah, I'm okay with some scribbles because I think it looks okay-ish. Also, this is not how it looks. Actually, random dark lines don't look that bad on it. It's funny how... So, sometimes when I'm painting... Oops. Random dark line, because that was for text. It's funny how sometimes when I'm painting, sometimes when I start stream, I start by writing stuff, and then, hey, it's a raid! We're starting the stream off with a raid! Foxology, hello. Hello, hello. I haven't even turned on my webcam, that's how early it is. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, sometimes I turn on, or I write something at the start of the stream, like, setting up or whatever, so I write stuff, and then I make like a backdrop for it. Just a light, just take an airbrush, put it in the background, make a new layer, and just paint in a dark layer. And I find that a lot of times, not only does it blend in, it actually looks good. And it's funny because obviously I wasn't planning on that. Now I'm not claiming this looks super great, but it does kind of have like it puts a shadow over it, and my painting was kind of dull. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if I like that or not, but anyway. This is what the painting actually was. Great timing. Yeah, it was good timing. How are you, Foxology? Hope you're doing well today. Also, I'm going to turn down my music just a tad. It might not be loud for you guys, but for me... Okay, maybe that's too much. I wish there was numbered controls. Do you guys know... Maybe it's too quiet now. It's very... I feel like YouTube sound controls are very imprecise. Because you're using your mouse, and to use your mouse and try to slide precisely in that last little sliver, it's not easy for me to get it, like, quiet. Or quiet enough without it being too quiet. And also it has like a snap to mute type thing, so like as you get towards the end of the slider bar, it like there's a slider bar, and then as you get to the end, right, because you're moving like the circle, and as you move, it'll go from here to there. It snaps all the way there. So if you want to make the sound like here, it's very hard because it's going to snap to that, and so it gets very, very finicky right in this area, and like I want it quiet but not off, and it's hard to do that. Anyway. Foxology says, I'm a little achy because of the weather, but doing good otherwise. No, that sucks. I don't... How does that work? I know I hear people say that, and people can get very... Is it just like cold? Cold makes you achy? Is that what that is? I never... Like, I don't think I experienced that. I'm glad I don't experience that, because that sounds not good. Okay, anyway. Let's paint stuff. But yeah, hopefully the weather turns to whatever makes you not achy, but yeah. But I hope the stream went well. What did you work on today? Would you like to share, Foxology? Also, hi, Commissar Skull. How's it going? Howdy, howdy. Alright, I'm gonna start by just sketching stuff. Maybe downward view. We're gonna sketch some top down, just putting some dark spots as our negative, as our background. Let's see, do I want dark foreground or light? I don't know. Kind of thinking like a gemstone, like crystal things. I don't know. The barometric pressure can mess with your joints and cause them to swell. Connective tissue disorders are a great weather prediction. I've heard people say that's interesting. Huh. Could predict the weather with your joints. All right. But yeah, if you have any art you'd like to share, feel free. And also, if anybody has any art they'd like to share, it's a good way to start the stream with a little art share. See what people are up to. But yeah. I'm kind of just doodling. I don't really have a plan today. I mean, I do have a plan today. So last stream I did this. Actually, for a couple streams I did this. And then, so my plan today is basically just start something new. And I'm going to take it slow. I don't have, like, real plans in terms of what I'm painting. But I do have kind of plans in that I just want to make something new. I want to spend a bit more time in this phase, in the planning phase. And once I have an idea, I want to pursue it a little bit more thoroughly. But also, I think my plan for this painting is that I want to do something kind of top-down view. Sort of like this one, actually. This is kind of top-down view, right? We have... I mean, the focal point is still we're looking up at it. But, like, if this is our eye line, I kind of want... Like, if we do something similar, I want our focal point to be down here, not up here. You know what I mean? Like it is on the third, but then half of this structure, and I know that's a random thing, like, well, why does it matter? And I think for me it doesn't, but, I mean, it doesn't inherently matter, but I think it matters for me because I always end up doing, like, the same, like, formula, which is fine, but I feel like I owe it to myself to mix it up. You got some, you're tired. Oh, I'll share that art. Hello, Basilisk. I have Basilisk. Hope you're doing well. Long time no see. Foxology says, it was good. You're working on a new little comic for Claire Obscure. Oh, awesome. Yeah, you're more than welcome to share. I'd love to see. Yeah, I don't have much of an idea of how this is going to work. But I kind of am thinking something like a giant, like we're looking downward. Kind of. And then there's like a crystal down here. And we're kind of looking down. It doesn't look like it yet. Doing well, how are you? I'm doing pretty well. Today's a little bit of a tired day. I had work earlier, and it was kind of a long day. And I've just been tired. Like, yesterday I was super tired. Today I'm kind of tired. Just wacky schedule, going to work at midnight. I think it's taken its toll on me. I can only do so much, like, you know, middle of the night shifts before I just feel like I need sleep. Even though I'm getting sleep. So I don't know. But I think I'm good. I mean, I feel good right now. I woke up from a nap just a bit ago. So I'm still a little, like, not groggy, but I'm basically still waking up. Alright, but then this, so I'm drawing something looking downward, and I'm trying to think how light do I make it in the background, because, like, you're not looking super far off in the distance. We're looking down, maybe there's, like, we could do, like, an atmospheric perspective thing, where the foreground is dark, and then the background is light, and so this would be the foreground, because we're still looking up. Or we're looking down, and then this part would be far away. This is up close. I gotta think about this. You got a CPAP for your sleep apnea in the fall, and I accidentally fell asleep without it the other day, and I'm still a bit sleepy. Ooh. Yeah, I don't think I have sleep apnea, and I don't think I snore. I don't know. And I know it's sleep apnea is more than just snoring, I think. I don't really know much about sleep apnea. I don't think I have actual trouble sleeping. I think for me, it's more of just an erratic sleep schedule because of my work shift, or my work schedule is kind of erratic, and so I'm tired not because of like a constant flip-flop. It's like I'm permanently jet lagged, right? Because I have no like it doesn't matter if you sleep on the plane. When you arrive, your day's gonna feel off because your body's saying, I need to sleep, and you're like, I just woke up. And then, like that's how I feel. Like it's more of, yeah. But I do wonder though, because like I don't really know. I could have like a sleeping issue. Yeah, I know people with sleep apnea tend to not get good sleep and they can feel drained because they aren't sleeping well. And it's hard to know when you're not sleeping well because, well, you're asleep. Well, mostly. Like your body is doing things it shouldn't be, and you're being woken up momentarily and then go back to sleep. And it's like, you might feel like you slept all night, but if you didn't, then you're gonna be tired. The biggest sign is that you can't seem to get enough sleep. Yeah, I don't think that's my thing, but it's for me it's just a matter of like my sleep schedule sucks. And so like some days my day is like 20 hours long. And then the next day it's like 12 hours long. Not because of sleep, but because I have work at stupid hours, and then I don't like, I mean, I guess part of it's self-inflicted because like I could have like I could arrange my life around my work schedule such that I'm always doing things at night and then I just always sleep during the day. But like when I'm only part-time, why would I want to arrange my life around those 20 hours a week and never see the daylight? It just feels weird. And so I kind of do like this flip-flop with my sleep schedule where if I'm not working for a day or two, then I'm gonna like take a nap after work, reshift my sleep schedule kind of, so that then I can actually be awake during that day rather than having to like be awake at night. And then it just that messes up the next time. It's just constant suckiness, but okay, you've compiled 3 pages into 1 image, so I didn't spam links, but I give you art text. All right, let's take a look. Oh, this looks amazing without reading it yet, or I haven't, but look at this. Look, hold on. Boom, right there. Look at that. We've got eyes. It's a little blurry. It's hard to read in this resolution, but also I'll admit, I think when it comes to reading comics, I'm kind of dumb. I don't always know how to read them. Do you read like left side first up and down or left right? I always struggle, and I realize this is like a compilation. I assume there's 3 here, so I feel like it's probably top down. Yeah, but this is super cool. I like this. I like how you set things up. Like in this one, there's a big image behind it with the little boxes that show like expressions and stuff. I think that's really cool. I like this. I feel like doing panels and how you arrange the little bubbles is like, I mean, that's like a skill in and of itself that like I would imagine if you've never done it. Like I feel like I would be so bad at that. Like there's cool creative choices just in the arranging of the bubbles, and like where do you put them, and do you using it to like guide I don't know, like because there's a flow, it's like, but every panel is a little different, and so it's not just like left to right reading, but sometimes you read things in a different way, and it's like the bubbles and lines and stuff can help you determine how to read things. It's like, it's very cool. Panel layouts are so hard, I'm still trying to learn. It looks like I mean, it looks like you're doing a good job. I mean, again, this is from someone who doesn't know much about panel layouts. I do feel like that is my one of I think. Okay, let me restart. I think growing up, that was one of my biggest hurdles into, like, one of the reasons I never got into comics is because there was such a variety in panel layouts, and like sometimes they were just hard to read. Like the art would be beautiful, and you'd kind of have to like learn. You'd have to sort of learn the style of the panel of like the panel layouts of the comic you were reading. Like it reminds me a little bit of, okay, this is a little bit of a tangent, but you know how like I back a while ago, I remember watching a YouTube video where this girl who had never played a single video game in her life, and at the age of like almost 40 or something, got into video games, or was like trying to go through like some of the old classics. And all of that like knowledge that a lot of people who have played the classic video games have, like, you know, if you hold down a button, if you're walking, there's probably a running button, right? Hold down B to run or whatever, right? Or, oh, your character has, like, there's probably a jump button, right? Like, even if you don't know what it probably is there. Or if you're running and you jump, you probably jump farther than if you don't run and jump, right? There's sort of this, like, intuitive language of video games that you can kind of expect it, where, like, you can just assume that, oh, there's something, you know, there's a, I don't know, there's a monster. Oh, I can probably jump on top of it or something. Like there's sort of like a shared language across games, and so even if the game doesn't tell you explicitly you can do something, the most players can kind of just like, it probably exists in the game because it's a side scroller. Side scrollers tend to have this feature, and like, you know, you can kind of just like pattern recognition your way through the mechanics. But if you've never done that, right, if you've never played a video game, you don't have any of that, like, learned language of games. And so it's really hard for you to, like, you don't know how to read the game. You just die to stuff. You don't know how to jump properly. You don't know how to run jump. Like, you don't have any of the basics. And that's how I feel with comics. I don't know how they work, or at least I never learned early on enough. And so it always felt like this weird thing where other people can pick up a comic and read it and enjoy it, and I pick up a comic and I'm like, how do I read it? Like, how do I go from one spot to the next? And it's just like, I don't know why I never got into it, and I don't know why that never clicked for me early on, but I feel like now I can do it, but it never came. I still don't feel fluent at reading panels. And I think some people, I think some comics are like, they have their own styles, maybe. I don't know for sure. And once you kind of learn the style and learn the flow of things, it becomes real easy. But then there's like a noob like me who jumps in and just, I'm so confused. Rant, yeah, Basilisk. Hey, Chrissy Carson, Basilisk. Yeah, so the rant function, the rant command, the rant command has not been in use lately. Not many people even know of its existence. A lot of the people who've been chatting, like from the last, like, 2 years, are not the same people, and so sort of the same, like, yeah, we just haven't had a lot of people type in rants in chat as I rant. So the counter should be at least in the 2000s, 3000s probably. You're not great at reading comics either? Drefzilla says, top to bottom, left to right, at least with Western comics. Yeah, but it's not always that way, right? Like, you have, like with, Foxology just did a thing where I thought it felt pretty natural, but it was, you do a thing like this, and this is clearly the first one, because you have, like, a character saying, like, I'm just gonna give them cat ears, because it's a cat talking. And so you have, like, the cat is saying something, and then you have another thing over here, and it's like this one and then this, but you know that when you see this bubble, you immediately know that this one comes first, and there's sort of like a, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, there's a, it's not strictly left to right, or top to bottom, left to right. There's also creative design in there, and it's not just like, you know, I mean, I think when in doubt, top to bottom, left to right, right? But there's so many. I feel like there's more exceptions than the rule. And I think if you're familiar with them, your brain probably says, "Oh, it's just top to bottom, left to right. It's easy peasy," you know? But then in practice, there's enough exceptions that the noob like me comes along, and I just feel like I'm an idiot because it's like, what? And you're like, "Oh, well, this other thing indicates that you do it this other way." It's like, yeah, I didn't know the indicators. Actually, speaking of indicators, do you guys know like Kaizo Mario, what that is? So like there's these Mario levels, whether it's like Super Mario Maker or Kaizo Mario is like its own like custom thing where people make like super hardcore Mario things, and there will be things like they make indicators for what technique you have to do, like, oh, this is a double shell jump, and you'll like grab a shell, you'll throw it up in the air, then you grab another shell, you hit it against the wall, jump off the shell, take the shell that you just grabbed, throw that against the wall, and then jump on that. So it's like a super complicated technique, but there will be little indicators to tell you what you're doing. Like they'll be like, they'll put them in the background. So they'll be like this, and then that will mean throw shell this way, right? And then you might have something like this. It'll be like, that means throw shell downward. And if you don't know them, yeah, but some of them get super, yeah, Kaizo literally just means mod. Yeah, but some of them are like super hardcore. But anyway, so, like they're really, really insane, and they're pretty awesome. But there is a language, right? There's like a shared language of like how you read the levels, because if you don't know what you're getting into, it feels like it would be impossible. But the creators, they, you know, they are all in the same bubbles, they all learn the same tech, they all learn how to communicate that tech with symbols and things, and to someone who plays it, you like, oh, it's extremely clear what you're doing. Right? There will be little coins, and the coins indicate you do something on the coin, right? If there's 3 coins and 3 shells, that means you're jumping on each thing. But like, it's not always clear when you're, you know, you might have 3 coins and this symbol, and it's like, what in the world is happening? But anyway, that's how I feel. It's just, it's like it's cool. I mean, part of me, there's like I'm kind of fascinated by that, because I think it's kind of a neat thing when you like have a community, or you use, you know, whether it's a comic and over a long time you like train the audience how to read the thing, where like, you know, maybe it starts real simple, but then as you introduce more creative choices that, you know, like little call outs and breaking the frame of stuff, suddenly the people will pick up on these patterns, and if you're a long time viewer of this comic or a player of this game, you kind of learn the language, and so that by the time you're at the end, you know, like think of someone running through Dark Souls or something, and there's, you know, every single, where every monster is behind every corner, and you can perfectly dodge everything, and it's just like easy breezy. But like, until you know that, it feels like you're stumbling at every turn. Anyway, random, I don't know if that was a coherent rant, but anyway, I'm both fascinated by it, because I think it's cool when you have like language through symbols and patterns and stuff like that. But it also, for like a beginner, I can understand it can be difficult to get into. Also, hello, Pepperly. Chrissy says, I find manga easier to read than Western comics because all manga generally follows the same relatively simple structure, unlike Western comics that love to try to be unique. Yeah, maybe that's it. I mean, I think, because I know people who love Western comics and they have no problem reading them. So I do think a lot of it's just like a learned pattern recognition, and like, even within people trying to be unique, there's still trends. And if you don't know once you know those trends, it's probably not too bad, is my guess. But yeah, I think I'm probably the same. I've never really read manga. I don't know much. Actually, I've never read a manga in my life, I'll be honest. But I have a hunch I'd probably be similar to you, where like something that follows a trend would be much easier than than something where everyone's trying to be unique. But yeah. Alright, what do I want to do today? I mean, I'm going to start out with some sketches. And blobbing some colors down. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Drinking tea and painting. It's going to be a pretty chill day, I think. I mean, minus the ranting. The ranting's never chill. Which is always funny when people say my stream is chill. I mean, I guess it's like chill in a podcasty sense. Because I kind of... In some ways, I think you can listen to stream without typing. Because I'm just rambling and ranting. But... To me, that is not the definition of chill. It is like... a little bit frantic or manic or something. Maybe those words don't mean the same thing. But yeah, I feel like sometimes it's a little unhinged. But I don't know, maybe not. But thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah, right now I'm trying to paint something. It kind of, for whatever reason, this looks like a baby pacifier. It's not supposed to. But I'm trying to paint something looking downward. Kinda looking downward. I don't know why this looked like a baby pacifier. It kind of looked like this, where it's like the thingy, and then this thingy sticks out. Like, I don't know. It looked like a... kind of looked like a baby pacifier to me. I don't know why. I guess that's what happens when I'm constantly trying to ask myself what my own art looks like and try to find shapes in the clouds. You just see all sorts of random crap. I sometimes get the feeling that, like, the practice of looking at random abstract shapes and noise, essentially, and trying to make sense of it is, like, training the part of my brain that is the same as, like, a conspiracy theorist. Where, like, they're, you know, like, you can look at two unconnected events and then connect them together. And I feel like that's what I'm doing in my own art. And it's like I'm actively practicing this skill, which is not good, because then if you you start doing this and, like, out of art, and suddenly you are, like, a conspiracy theorist. Where, like, you're just making up random unconnected information. It's like I'm training myself to be illogical. And I sometimes I fear that, like, you know, fast forward 40 years, if I assume I'm going to live another 40 years, maybe not. But if I live another 40 years, that, like, I'm going to be so unhinged because I'm actively training making random unrelated connections in my day-to-day life. Like, that is not a good practice to do. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is, like, there's, like, a little bit of a fear there where, like, I'm gonna teach myself to jump to conclusions that aren't reasonable because of super unrelated, loosely related things that are, like, you know, like correlated things not being causal, but assuming they're causal because it's a fun creative exercise to, like, what if these things are connected, you know? Because, like, so much of creativity is, like, combining random crap and, like, finding the similarity and then pretending, and then, like, making up the explanation, which is fun. It's a great fun thing to do, but it's, like, dangerous if it becomes, like, a thought pattern that you have. I don't know. I'm a little... Part of me is a little concerned that I'm training myself to be a lunatic. Do you guys ever feel like that? Like, is there... I wonder if there's probably science around this, right? There's probably literally studies on this very topic, because of course there would be. I should look it up. I mean, it would stand to reason, right? That if you do a thing all day, you're gonna get really good at it. And if that's jumping to random baseless conclusions, you're gonna get really good at that. I don't know. Okay, what am I painting here? So this is like a crystal. It doesn't look like it's going up, so let's start making this Okay. Go like that. We're looking down. Maybe I'll make some shapes down here. These shapes are just for me to establish some sort of... Virvez, hello! Hope you're doing well. Okay, so these shapes are just to establish some perspective. You say, how's it going? It is going well. A little tired. Just a bit. A wee bit tired. Happy Monday, Ernesto the Gamer. How's it going? Happy Monday to you also. Hope your Monday's going perfectly. I was going to say swimmingly, and that would be a good word too. But yeah, hope you're all doing well. Yeah, day's going good for me, although now my nose is itching. Of course it is. Yeah, I've been up for a while, and so I'm just kind of tired. But it's good. Just having fun painting. We're starting something new. We just finished this, or I'm calling it finished, although funny enough, I actually think doing like a shadow or something over this would not be a bad idea. But anyway, this is more or less a finished painting, and I'm pretty pleased with it. And so now we're going to work on something else. I don't normally work on things as long as I did on this one, so I'm quite happy with this. Did a lot of rock painting. It's not... I'm a little afraid that I over-rendered it, or there's too much contrast back here. Like with the dark shapes, but... And also this is kind of weird, but... I don't know, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm really happy with this rock pile, although in some ways it's... Like, to me, it's the most interesting thing, and it's off to the side, which is kind of unfortunate. Which is a sign that it probably shouldn't be calling it finished. But I do like how I painted these rocks. I think there's some cool gradients in here. This kind of thing with the lighter parts up here. Some of the brushwork's kind of fun. But anyway, yeah, I'm quite happy with this one. And so I'm hoping to, whatever I end up working on, maybe I'll borrow some of that. Maybe I'll have learned some things to apply. I like how you have made sunny rocks making a path to the cave. Yeah, I had a little bit of sunny rocks. A little bit of sunshine in here, in here, in here. So it's kind of like a little bit of a path, kind of. I don't know if it's good. I mean, I could have probably done that and just kept the path like this. It's hard to know with this kind of thing. Like, did I need to put those there? Probably not. I mean, it might honestly be better without them. I could have also put some of the sunny stuff here. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes those choices... The last one made it more depth. This made more depth. Did this one? You say you like this one better. You like it without the light. Yes to this one. Yeah, I mean, it's... I think you're probably right. No, not that one. This one. With the sunny rocks. Oh, okay, you think so. Okay, well, I'm glad you like it with the sunny rocks then. You think without them lit, there's more depth. Well, that's good. Depth is good, right? So without them lit, there's more depth. So this has more depth. With the rocks is more depth. Now you're saying without the rocks. Now I don't know what you're saying. With or without? With them lit? is like this, without them lit is like this. I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. I actually, the more I look at it, the more I like this. But it doesn't really matter. I'm probably going to call it finished. I'll sleep on it. When you have the rocks in the picture, it is making more depth. Okay. glad that we got that cleared up. It's hard because there's probably a little bit of a delay, so anytime people say stuff, it's like, by the time I read it, it's been a few seconds. No, it's all good. It's hard to communicate like that in real time, because there is a bit of a delay, and then I'm rambling, and yeah. But no, this is, I think this is going to be a fun painting. I'm not sure what, I don't really have a theme. All I know is I want to paint stuff looking downward. I want to have enough form in it that I can actually play around with lighting and shadow and lighting the form as opposed to just big graphical light shapes. So let's just put down some other colors and stuff. I don't really know quite what I want to do. Actually, I don't know at all what I want to do. I do want to play with grays, though. This one has a lot of gray in it, and I really like that. I think the gray just makes it look nicer. Oh, what was that? Hydrate. I did add the hydrate thing. I heard it. I heard it this time. I heard the hydrate. Thanks, Skittle. I think my sound alerts are a little quiet because when the music's playing, it's like the same volume as my music, and because it's a jingle, well, that one's not really, but some of the ones are a jingle. You think the sound alert only played for you? It's very quiet, and well, it's quiet and it's musical. Or that one isn't super musical, but like here, this one for example, yeah, I think it's a little low. I know Skittles is super loud. It's like the loudest thing in his stream, so it's a little, like this one. Oh, that's not right. Why is it showing that? Hold on. That's not supposed to show that one. It's supposed to... Hold on, I gotta change that. It's supposed to show the flamingo. It didn't show the flamingo. What's wrong? Why did my alert break? Hold on, let me go to dashboard. It's the sound when you finish a quest in a video game. Yeah. Well, that one, the flamingo check is not supposed to be that sound. I actually have not custom sound, kind of custom sound for that. Viewer rewards. How do you change it? I forget. Content. No. Community. No. Rewards. No. How do you do it? It's like Twitch alerts, but I forget where that is. Streaming tools. No. Why am I so bad at this? I should know where this is. Settings. No. Alerts. Oh, that's where it is. Probably. Alert box. Edit alerts. Channel points. Oh, there we go. Okay, then this one... I think I can change the sound. We're gonna go... Okay, hold... Sorry, guys, you can't see this. You can't see what I'm doing. Sound and visuals. Volume, 9% to 13. Save changes. See, I think the other one now... Oh, that's why. Hydrate. Save changes. What's this one at? See, this one's at 50% volume. Huh, okay, that's fine. So this one... Okay, let's try this now. Now, if I go in here, can I re-redeem my own thing even though it should be on cooldown? Okay, it says come back in 16 minutes. Apparently I can't. It should be fixed now though. It should be a little louder, not much louder, but a little bit, and it should properly show. But we'll see if I got it right. I don't have a graphic for the hydrate. We will try it out soon. Yeah, we'll try it out soon. But I wanted just to make sure because I have a custom graphic for the flamingo check made by Rona, and I want to make sure that's actually playing. Because it has been in the past, but then I fiddled around with the hydrate one, and then I think I ruined it. So. But yeah, it should be better now. Also, let's do some warm and cool here. So we got a cool blue. Let's do a warm background. A grayish color. And then we'll go down here with like... This is all gonna be in light. And this will be a cool light. What's the topic for today? Basically, I don't know. There isn't one. It's painting stuff from above, looking downward view a little bit. I don't know. This one's a crystal or a gem or something in the ground. A giant gem. Yeah, it could be a creature. I don't know. Maybe there's a pathway going up there. So maybe we go... Oh. Maybe a pathway going up here. And then on this pathway we have light, like this, shining around. And then... How do you do this? Like this? This is like we're looking up it now. Like boop, boop, doop, 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 doop. Like that. And then maybe there's like a shadow here. I don't know. Something like that could work. And then this is like high up, maybe? Maybe there's like trees It took me a moment to get here, but now that we're here, it's almost working. So giant crystals, maybe there's some more back here also. And maybe you can see what they are back here because we're high up and I don't know, something like that. And yeah, maybe you can see the thingies. I don't know. That's kind of fun. Some sort of pathway. Maybe the pathway is not wood, but it's more like natural stone, and so we go a bit more gray. Gray and like kind of like that other environment, like this one, where you use like stone, but then grass on the side, and so there's like stone and grass and things growing. That'd be kind of fun. And then, of course, if these are going to be stones, we would have, you know, we want some layers on our edges here. There's also going to be some blue because, again, crystal. I don't know if I like this, but it's kind of fun. I'm trying to do something a little bit different than what I normally do, a little bit unique. Also, is this going to be a skylight line back there? I don't know what I'm doing with the sky. We could have like sunset, although I'm afraid to put sunset in paintings unless there's a real good reason. Sunsets, I feel like, are a bait. I feel like they're a little bit of not a noob trap. There's nothing to say that if you paint a sunset, you're a noob. But I feel like it's a little bit of like a thing that's so tempting because it's fun, and like if you're not careful, you get sucked into the allure of it because it's fun and it's shiny, but it may not serve your image. Like, do you know what I mean? I've been playing some Teamfight Tactics lately, and I played some with my brother, and like, this topic sometimes comes up when we're playing, where like, because there's these, for those who don't know, Teamfight Tactics has like a little bit of a roguelite or roguelike, like RNG type thing, where like you have to pick like one of 3 boons that benefit you or change your board, or it changes the state of your game basically, and you have to pick one of 3. And sometimes the options are kind of like, they're basically just like a noob trap. They look really good, but they're only good if you're already winning, and then they're just like win more, and they're not going to help you win if you need to win. Like, they're more tempting. And I feel like there's certain things in art, whether it's certain compositions or certain lighting, you know, like sunsets. Everybody loves sunsets. It feels like it's kind of like that, where like, unless you have a really good reason to do that, for me personally, I try to avoid certain things like that because it's so tempting. Because like, I love painting sunsets, but also if every painting turns out to be a sunset, am I growing? You know, am I actually getting better? And the answer is probably no. Thank you for the follow. Hebe's here. How's it going, Hebe? It is going well. My day's going good. I'm just ranting and rambling. The usual. Just paint sunrises. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this isn't a sunset, it's a sunrise. No, this is always, I think sunset versus sunrise is always a fun distinction, because I think there's this tendency to say, oh, well, they're different, right? Sunsets tend to be, you know, lower moisture, oftentimes more red. Sunrises, oftentimes they're less red, but there's more haze and fog. And that's technically true, but the problem is you never view them side by side. And different regions in the world, depending on where you are, different seasons, they also have different amounts of moisture and fog and all that. And so in isolation, you actually can't really tell the difference. But like if you have two of the same image or the same place in the same time, and one looks a little different, then you can start making guesses as to like, oh, that one looks more sunset than this one. But when it's just a single image, there's basically no difference because the variance from geography to geography is bigger than the difference between night and morning, right? Sunset and sunrise is less of a difference than where you are. And so you can't, unless you knew the location or it was like a real place, you pretty much couldn't tell. Like maybe there are some there again. There's just like it's all very subtle, and I think it's a fun thing to think about because it's like it almost gets into like the difference between art in isolation and art in context, right? Like a single image versus an entire sequence or one image multiple times to show like a time lapse or something. Oh no, my peanuts. Oh no, my peanuts feels funny. That is a name. This picture could do with a sunset. Well, I was thinking about adding like the orange sky to it, and yeah, it could be. We could do sunset, but I don't think I want to. I mean, that's very orange. I don't think I want to go that route. I'm not sure what I want to do, but I don't think this is it. Or even like warm in the background. I'm trying to think, like I'm still planning the painting. I don't really know where I'm going with it, but we could do something like this actually, where it's more broad daylight and maybe there's like a sunbeams coming through, and so there's maybe still some strong sun. And this is very bright. I wonder if there's some other design choices that make sunsets and sunrises, like shadow placement, sunbeams. I mean, technically, yeah, like because one's rising on the east and one's setting on the west. But again, unless you knew the location. So like if you're looking at if this is where like if you take a photo of say the Empire State Building, right? You can tell if it's a sunrise or a sunset because you can know the location, you can know the geography, you can tell if it's setting on the right, the east or the west, right? And even if you don't know the geography, well, again, if you have a single image, there are, right? There's like, well, I feel like it's like percentages, right? Like on average, sunsets are more, and then there's a bunch of qualities, right? But the problem is that it's not objective, and so you can't know for certain, right? You can make a guess, but if you just see an image in isolation, you don't have anything to compare it to. You can't say, does this image in isolation look more red and more moisture than the other image? You just don't know because there is no other image. Oh, hello! Gotchi DA says, hello, Joe. Hi, on Gotchi DA on YouTube. Hello. Rihanna, or Rihanna. Rachiana. Rachiana, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Thank you for the raid. Wait, did I know? Yeah, hi, how was your stream? How are you? This feels more like sunrise to me. I think the lighting hitting the blue structure. Yeah, see, I don't know. Yeah, sunrise versus sunset is kind of, to me it feels more like an emotional thing where like if you're used to your sunsets looking a certain way, you're gonna interpret it. Like I feel like it's very interpretive, you know, because I think objectively you can't really tell in isolation because there's just too much variance between sunsets and sunrises. And this topic's hard to have on a Twitch stream also, or it's hard to talk about on a Twitch stream because there's always gonna be sort of the like, but Joe, sunsets are more red than sunrises, so of course you can tell. And like, sure, but like they're more red than what? Than another image? Like in isolation, you can't tell because yeah, and so it's always hard because like there are differences, right? Like there are real differences, but there's none that you can. I mean, it's almost a like a statistical problem, right? Where like you can't look at someone and know their entire life story based on stereotypes and statistics, right? You just that's called stereotyping, and we don't do that because that's bad. You shouldn't assume things about one person based on things that may or may not be trends of a group that they may or may not belong to. And like you can't look at a single sunset and know if it's a sunset or sunrise based on vibes because it could be wrong. And it feels like that. It's like a anyway. And it's not wrong for like moral reasons. It's wrong for like because you could be wrong statistically. Right? Like it's just that's not yeah, anyway. I don't think it's fun. It's a fun topic because it's like this thing where there's real world data and but we just don't have enough and yeah. Okay, back to art, back to drawing. I don't like the colors in this one, by the way. So I could just keep fiddling with it, playing around, adding colors. I kind of want to just have colors that look nice, and then once I find colors that I like, we will go back and change stuff. I kind of like the purples in here. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to merge visible. I realize this might take me a while and I might not get very far today. But I want to play around with some color. Maybe a green soul stuck in the crystal, maybe. I am a little afraid of going too many colors, so I'm trying to add like a purple haze to like cool it down so that the cool versus warm is a little bit more distinct. Raychiana says, hey, first stream testing stuff out. Okay, you know, Raychiana... Oh, that was much louder. Wait, no, but that's still the wrong... That's not the right graphic. Okay, hold on. Also, that was really loud. Why isn't that the right graphic? It's... Hold on. I'm so confused. Flamingo check. I see it, though. It's here. I don't know why. I don't know why the flamingo one isn't working. I don't know why. It was. I broke it. Anyway, I'll sit up straight. I will sit up straight. When things break on stream, I'll tell you what. Water then? Yeah, water. I think, well, the water one, I don't have a custom graphic, so that'll work. Whatever it does, it'll work. The water one might be a little louder now, though. Hopefully. Trying some shapes, some swirls, some lines. What I need to do for these early sketches is just allow myself to sketch a little faster. Sketch faster, make more shapes, be more gestural, get marks on the page. And I do wonder, because this is something that you know, maybe people do talk about this, I don't know, but like gesture as a means to just like put marks on the page quickly and like vaguely in perspective, vaguely in the gesture that you want, but less about like accuracy. And I mean, obviously it's less about accuracy, but like more, just more about like putting marks on the page as like to make the illusion read and doing it in a way that's somewhat useful. So not just random. Do I upload my sketches somewhere? Yeah, I have them on Discord. I also oftentimes will upload them to Instagram, but not all of them. But yeah, they always make their way to Discord, but if I don't work on them again, they'll just stay on Discord. Also, what's going on here? Maybe I just keep extending it downward? What if we do that? But yeah, so typically if it's like a finished thing, it'll make its way to Instagram. But yeah, otherwise it'll just stay here. And I'll upload it to Discord. In the channel called Thumbnail Archive. It's very, very, yeah, mostly it's that. And then sometimes I also have a Patreon, which I don't put all my sketches there, which I probably should. But I just do like, I'll put like time lapses and stuff. Which I don't typically advertise because I'm not always super on the ball with it. Sometimes I'm a little bit slow. But really, that's more just there if anyone wants to support me additionally. Other than just being a viewer and a lurker. But Raychiana said, first stream testing stuff out. So, okay, Raychiana, when you first came in, I was like, wait, did I know you stream? But I was kind of afraid to ask because I felt like I should have already known the answer. Okay, so that was your first stream. Yeah, how was it? Did things break? Things always break the first time. But hopefully things didn't break. But yeah, so yeah, that's cool though that you're streaming. Let me follow you, because I don't know if I knew that you were. How do I follow you? Here, let me give you a shout out. Because Raychiana is starting to stream now. So / shout out Raychiana. That's not how I, hold on. I'm dumb. / shout. Is that, wait, is that you? Did I just shout someone out that isn't you? No, that is you. There we go. I'm gonna follow you. I thought I just shouted out the wrong person. Okay. I don't know if I like this this crystal thing. I feel like we can do more with the shape. Maybe it's like fragmented, so maybe we have like bits of crystal here. Thanks, pal. It was good working on some fundamentals and still earning your tablet. Nice. Well, that's cool. Yeah, it's always hard. I think starting streaming is hard. Like, it's hard because if no one knows that you stream, then no one's there, and then you're just, like, talking to yourself, and you're like, oh, this is weird. And it definitely takes some getting used to. Like, maybe it comes more easily for some people than others, but for me, talking to myself is not easy. Like, it's definitely a thing that I feel like I've learned to get better at. But even when I first started, I didn't really have to get better at it because I actually was very fortunate to have some people there already, like some people hanging out. Um, and so just knowing ahead, like just people knowing that you stream ahead of time, and like, cause you're already a regular in a lot of channels, right? So like, you know, if we get the word out, it shouldn't be an issue. Okay, I don't know if I like this, but it's kind of cool. Giant spikes of crystal. Now the question is, what do I do with it? Do we put things on the top? I was thinking there was gonna be like a city or something, you know, like a pathway going up it. But I don't know how I want to do that. Okay, now let's take a multiply layer and let's add a little bit of an airbrush with a darkness down here and then a darkness up here. And then we'll do like the light, like a, or do we want this to be light? Probably not dark. That makes it feel like a cave, you know, when we have things like this. And we could go like that, where we have the light shining directly on these. But I don't think we want that. That's too dark. But that's too light. So I think darkness in the distance, maybe? Or darkness at the top? I don't know. That's kind of cool. Again, don't really know what it is, but it's something. I don't know why I felt like drawing a giant blue spike, but it's kind of fun. It's fun to start with just like a random shape and then you figure out what the heck it is. Like, what is this thing? Is it a crystal? Are we in a cave? Are these giant... Is it like a tree trunk? Is it a plant? You know, could be lots of things. It's a good creative... It looks like a sci-fi... Yeah, it could be a sci-fi city. Yeah, we could have little docking ports or whatever and things flying through here. You know, maybe we have like a vehicle in the foreground and then in the background. Or it could be like a... Yeah. Could be. Could definitely be something like that. Okay, let's do something with blue and green. I do like the idea of like a foresty vibes. So here's the forest. We're just gonna do classic Bob Ross forest. Not really. It's not a Bob Ross. I don't know what you call it. But basically just looking overhead, it's a forest. Dark green in the foreground. Slightly getting bluer as you go further back. Just atmospheric perspective, basically. I don't know why I call it Bob Ross for. I guess it's just because I'm just plopping in shapes. Very, very rough. And then in here, actually, let's bring this up more. So very high horizon line. Or eye line. Which is kind of the same, but yeah. And then, down here, we have like a bright blue crystalline structure. Sticking out of the forest. Or a couple of them. And maybe there's a path. I like my paths. From this crystal over here, and then back over here. Maybe the path is dark? No. Could be. And maybe the crystals are taller. They're sticking up out of the ground. And maybe also some back here. Very, very standard layout. No sunlight, no nothing yet. Now, let's play around with color before I get too far in. So this is green, so let's crank up the green just for fun. Just for funsies. Why is it that your selection tool isn't making shapes when you cross the lines? You know what I'm asking? I don't know what I'm asking. Like that? What do you mean? Selection shapes when I'm crossing lines. Oh, do you mean like this? Where like if you're it's doing like you had a gap in your path. Wait. Isn't making shapes when you like this? I'm holding control, or I'm holding shift, and so I can make multiple shapes at once. Is that what you're saying? And then sometimes I'll hold Alt, and then I can delete parts. So like if I want a gap in here, or I want to divide this one up into multiples, I can go like this and chop out middle sections. So I switch between what I'm doing, so like, or sometimes I'll invert the option. So like if I have a selection here, right now this is selected, but now this is selected. And so I will, so sometimes I'm doing a thing and it may not be obvious what I'm doing. Like if I do something like this, you may not know what's selected when it's actually that, right? Like you might think this is the, you know, oh, I made a selection, but really I was selecting the outside, right? Versus the inside. And so sometimes I'm using hotkeys to like flip a thing. I thought you were crossing lines, and after filling it didn't fill that spot where you crossed the first stroke. Crossing lines. I don't know what that... I mean, I know sometimes when I'm doing this, it'll be a little bit messy, where like if I'm going like this, I'm not even certain what's gonna fill, because it might... Like, if I do that, I don't know what's gonna fill and what's not, right? Like, I genuinely have no idea. And like, oh, okay, this doesn't, right? But that's only... But there are ways to... Like, is this kind of what you're talking about when you cross lines? Yeah, are you saying that this should be filled? Are you saying that you thought it should be filled and it wasn't? That's what you mean when crossing lines? Okay. And then the middle part wasn't filled. That wasn't how the path was made. Doesn't matter, okay. Because, yeah, I guess it could be the case that you see lots of things and it ends up being like... I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example, but yeah, the lasso tool gets some getting used to, and sometimes it looks like there's, you know, you might have a weird wonky shape, and it's actually not as wonky as you think it is, because like there's like a logic to it, right? Like every time you cross. But if I do something like this, it's not gonna, I don't know. Lasso tool is weird. All digital tools are weird. They take some getting used to. And if you're the one using it, this is also why in digital painting, or really just painting in general, but digital painting, I think especially, is that if you don't know why someone's doing something, it's hard to know exactly what they're doing, because like there's a lot of different ways to get to a certain thing, and like I don't know. It's hard to know intent when you're watching someone paint, right? Like you can see them do a bunch of things, but then like 2 steps later, it comes into effect. But in the moment, you don't really know why they did what they did. And so if you're trying to learn from it without them explaining it, you're imitating the marks, but you're not imitating the thought patterns. And so like it's hard to learn like how and when an artist does a thing, if that makes sense. Like it's hard to follow their choices, because you don't see their choices. All you see is their actions, right? And sometimes the actions aren't, you don't know what the choice was based on the action, because there could be a lot of, yeah, anyway, I'm rambling. But anyway, it's hard. I think there was an artist at one point, and I think it was on a YouTube video, where someone was saying, they basically said what I just said, which is like, you know, watching someone paint is a really terrible way to learn how to paint. And the YouTube comments blew up, because people were like, what are you talking about? Like, of course you can learn how to paint by watching someone paint. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's not, like, that wasn't their point. Their point was that, like, you don't actually know why they made a mark. Like, you can guess, you can theorize why they did what they did, but ultimately you don't actually know why they did what they did. And so the best you can do is take a good guess and test it out for yourself. Like, you will never fully know why they did a thing. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think it's tricky. Even if you know a lot about painting, you still don't totally know. Like, why? It's not about, like, oh, they wanted to make a... Like, you know once they do it. For example, like, if I do this, right? You can pretty much know why I am doing this, right? You may not know yet, and now, you know, oh, I was just trying to lighten up the background. But you don't know why I decided to lighten up the background in that very moment. Why didn't I do it earlier? Why did I wait? Did I intentionally wait? Like, you don't know. Like, if you were in my situation back here, would you have also chosen to lighten the background right there? Like, it's obvious once I do it, but up until that point, you don't, like, right? Like, you don't know what made me think of the thing to put on the page. You can see that when I put it on the page, that, oh, obviously that was to lighten the background, but, like, you don't know what made me think of that thing. And you don't know how I got there. Right? And I think that's a really tricky part. I think that's a really tricky part of watching someone paint, because it feels like you understand every choice they make, but then when you go back in time and now you have to make a choice, you have no idea if they would have made the same choice as you. It's like I guess it's viewing it, painting from it in hindsight versus in the present, right? Mine's the I don't know how to say your name on YouTube. Mayens asks on YouTube, have you seen the theories presented by Oberlieutenant Herschel M? I think they might be useful in your landscapes. I don't think so. Maybe. Maybe? No, probably not. Yeah, I'm kind of just noodling right now. So just to recap, this is we just finished this, or I'm calling it finished. I could keep painting. It could also do with some other stuff. But anyway, we just finished this painting, and I'm gonna now. And today I'm starting on something new, and so I'm kind of just doing some quick sketches. Not quick actually, very slow. These are I could probably do with a lot more gray in here, but yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know of Oberlieutenant Herschel M. Sounds like a very fancy name. But yeah, no, there's a lot of cool stuff. I should write down here. Let me write down that name, and I'll Google them after, and I'll see if I know who they are. Okay, I wrote it down. It's testing your perception, and then from what you notice, you can make a guess if that information was the intention. Yeah, but I mean, you'll still never know. Sometimes it could just be like, for example, you might see me do something like this, where I just, I might go in with a glow dodge, and I do something like this, and like, you're never gonna know why I decided to put pink there. In fact, I might not even know. And you might be trying to read more into it than I did. It might, like there's a reason maybe I thought something was lacking. Like, oh, maybe some light was lacking, and so I slapped in some pink. And now I just decide to, maybe I picked pink at random. Maybe I thought it needed a warm color or something. And so, like, you never really know, right? And then, it looks very nice. The lighting is very slight amount off. Yeah, probably. Yeah, the lighting, I'm sure, is not perfect. There's always more attention to detail and care I can give to stuff. I assume you mean this one. These, for sure, the lighting makes no sense, because I'm not. Yeah, I'm just putting colors down and playing around. These are just like my initial idea sketches. So accuracy is not a goal here, but in this one, I definitely agree. Lighting is a bit weird. Yeah, I actually, this was what the lighting was. I actually added some random marks in here, but yeah, that's what the lighting is. But it's definitely not totally accurate. Some glowing gemstones. Or something. Some crystalline structures. Maybe there is like not a cavern, a walkway, or like maybe the structure is like ooh, I have an idea. Okay. So what if going in the distance, this is the distance. We go like this. And then along this path is where the crystals are. I also wouldn't expect it the cloud coverage, but still it's very good. Thanks. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, this yeah, I guess it's kind of there's some clouds back there. I mean, it's obviously it's also sunny though. But I think with yeah, I mean, lighting and stuff is tricky, especially with clouds. Like, obviously, I'm not claiming that the lighting is consistent. But with clouds, there is a lot of like freedom of how you shape with the lighting. Like, you can put clouds anywhere. So like, there could be a cloud hypothetically right overhead that you don't see that's casting a shadow. So like, oh, what am I doing? Oh no, what have I done? But yeah, I definitely didn't make super consistent lighting. Let's go like this. Let's put some light in here. Not light. What am I talking about? We're not talking about light. I'm putting some random shapes. Playing around. Seeing where to go. And maybe just the tips of these are in light. And then there's some shadows down here. Or something. And this is like a pathway, maybe? I like looking at games for lighting. I think if they're new games, they can be okay for lighting. Old games have some awful lighting. Old games' lighting engines are so bad. But some of the new ones are really good. They have great, like, render engines and just, yeah, a lot of games have good lighting. Yeah, games, movies. I mean, I think, yeah, anything that's art directed tends to have good lighting and yeah, for sure. Lots of good places to get inspiration and ideas and not even just inspiration, but like also just like knowledge, not factual information. That's not the right word. But like, you know, like how to do a thing. Also, what am I doing right now? I'm just making shapes, which is kind of fun. I like this approach where you just sort of jump straight in and do things. I'm kind of just moving pixels around though, without much of a thought, kind of, which is not amazing. Mainza says, Sprocket the tank building game has very realistic lighting, weirdly. Huh, never even heard of that game. Sprocket the tank building game. Sprocket tank design. Interesting. It looks like a game where you design tanks. Oh, let's close this. Yeah, I'm not really going for realistic lighting necessarily. I mean, not in these. In these, the colors are just out of control wackiness. But we might get somewhere. We might do something. Hey, Omi on YouTube, how's it going? You're pretty late today. You are later than you normally are, but you didn't really miss much. We haven't done anything today. Thanks for the follow. Hope you're doing well. How's the day going? Okay, this one I am just adding in some dark, some light and some shadow. I'm going in here with the graphical read. My colors were getting out of control and I just want to make the thing read graphically. So they're going to be a little wacky for a moment. Although I don't know, can you guys see this? I don't know if you can actually see it in me painting in black and white right now. I think you can. Is this my screen? Yeah, okay. So I turned my screen black and white, and you guys can see that. But yeah, so I'm still painting with color, but I'm focusing on black and white right now, just to get a graphical read. Although the issue with this is that, yeah, we're just gonna go crazy graphical here. But yeah, how are you doing, Omi? You can see the black and white? Yeah, I never know if you guys can see it or not, because depending on what screen I'm on, like this, now you can't, I think. Now you can see color, but I can't. Now I can see color. And so sometimes, because this is a Windows command, it's not in the app. It's not in Clip Studio. And so it can be a little bit, depending on if I'm screen recording or app recording, and which scene I'm on in OBS, it's hard to know what you guys see. So sometimes even when I'm painting in color, I'll flip it back and forth between grayscale. Okay, these colors are wacky though, so I'm gonna bring in a little bit little bit of blue and gray and stuff, and there, bringing in some colors. A very pink river. A river flowing. Maybe that we get some, I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm doing with this one. Today's kind of a lazy day. It's just like lazy painting, just hanging out. I don't really have any plans. I think my brain is just tired and I need a day off, and so this is my day off of just painting. Just painting stuff. No planning. No studies. No good habit forming. Just moving pixels. But I like it. I like this stuff. It can be fun. The only downside of this is that sometimes you still end the day and you're like, oh, nothing turned out good. And you know, sometimes you aren't gonna be happy with something if you just jump in and no planning and just go with the flow. But that's kind of sometimes the point though. Like sometimes it's good, I think, to like have no expectations and like be okay with something not looking great. It's just the color filter? Yeah, this is the color filter. So if you, for those who don't know, if you're on Windows and you type in, if you hit Windows and then you type in color filter, it's just in your Windows settings. You literally just click color filters. It'll bring up a menu, and then you make sure it's on grayscale, and then you can toggle it on and off with the hotkey that's listed, which is Control Windows C. And it just does a color filters grayscale. It's not as good as dot gain 20% in Photoshop, the color proofing setup, but I'm not in Photoshop and I don't have access to color proofing, so all I have is black and white, which is good enough. It's close enough for values in most cases that aren't like extreme saturation of blue and reds and greens. So it's pretty good. If you just want to do some quick value checking, it's not too bad. Vervin says, you're doing so much better than me. I'm on a break for half a year. Yeah, I don't really... I mean, because I'm on a schedule with streaming, and I stream basically regardless of how I feel, I'm gonna stream anyway. So I don't... Like, I don't really take a break from painting, but there are days where I'll take, like, a mental break, where, like, I'm just doing a thing, and I'm not... You know, I'll just do, like, a lazy sketch. I'll do something that I'm comfortable doing, that I've done a million times. Obviously not the exact same painting, but like, you know, I'm not trying to innovate. I'm not trying to push myself. I'm just kind of staying in a comfort zone. And this stuff's fun. I enjoy comfort paintings, you know. Obviously, if that's all you ever do, you're probably not going to improve, and that's okay. But, you know, every once in a while, I think I need to do that. But yeah, what's everybody else been working on lately? Has anyone else been in an art slump or not painting or want to paint more? Zumolo! Hello! How's it going? Yeah, I think with being in like art slumps and stuff where you feel like, or I don't know what you want to call it, art block or any of that, I think for a lot of people, unless you're doing it professionally, but I think a lot of times people talk about art block, it's in a non-professional sense. It's like as a hobbyist. And I feel like for that, it's like I think it's just important to remind yourself that like you don't have to paint. Like you don't have to paint or draw. You can take a break. You're allowed to decide that you're not feeling it. And like with all other hobbies, you pretty much do it when you want to. Art doesn't need to be any different. Also, this is very green. It's like unnaturally green. I've been working on a lot of animation in screen printing recently. Oh, very cool. That's awesome, Hebe. Zumolo says, I'm trying to paint more and get back into arting in general. 2025 was pretty much on autopilot for you. Gotcha. Virvez says, but by not painting, there will be no more cute Virvez art. That is fair. Yeah, you can't make awesome art if you don't make art, but you also shouldn't feel guilty for like not making art. You know what I mean? Especially if it's a hobby. Obviously, again, I'm not talking about professional people who make their living off it. You know, you probably should. Oh, okay. I don't want to say you should feel bad, but like, if you aren't doing the thing that allows you to support yourself, you probably need to do the thing, something to support yourself, right? Like you've got to support yourself in some way. So yeah. Mine's on YouTube says, I've been trying to learn calculus to make better art. I feel like I need some context there. What are you using calculus for in your art? I mean, I'm all for, like, I think learning concepts, whether they're math or otherwise, can absolutely be useful in art, but I'm curious how you would use it in art. How would how for you does learning calculus help art? Because I took 2 courses in college of calculus, and I still feel like I don't know calculus, but I don't feel like I ever use it in art. Maybe I should. Maybe I should be, and I just don't know how. I don't know how to use it in art. But I'm not quite sure I would know how. I know like there's a lot of practical use of like general principles of like geometry and other, you know, and there's also a lot of like math concepts that I think are really useful, not to make art, but to like sort of like reminders to like not feel down on yourself kind of when making art. There's like ways out of mental blocks and stuff. I think there's a lot of concepts that can help, like regression to the mean, like a lot of like statistical things where like when you make a single piece of art, it's sometimes easy to forget that like that's just a drop in the bucket of all the art you're gonna make, and like there's variance and you'll have highs and lows, and like you can't judge your progress from one piece of art. So there's math concepts that relate to like statistics that are useful to just like to know, because then you aren't gonna feel bad, or like making inaccurate comparisons. But in terms of actually making the art, I don't know how calculus would help, but I'm sure it could, especially if you're doing like geometric art, like patterns and designs, and you're trying to do like ratios and you know, kind of like isn't there like a whole art movement of like applying math to art? I think there is. I think there's like an entire art movement around that back in the day, where like trying to unlock the it's kind of, to me it's a little bit woo-woo, but it's like the unlocking the universal language of art and math, and like trying to put that on the, you know, making everything in like the golden rectangle and finding these spirals and patterns in nature and making into art is like trying to like find a formula for the most beautiful images, which I think is kind of garbage, but it's a cool way to go about it. I think anything that like gives you, to me it's a lot like, well, It reminds me a little bit of like taking like astrological stuff, like star signs or gemstones or whatever, moon or crystals and moonstones or whatever, like or astrology. Like I think like that's really it's a really fun way to like make characters and inspire yourself to make art, and you take these things and what they represent and you use them to like as a metaphor for your own art and build on them, and like it's a really good creative tool. Like I think that stuff's awesome. Same with like taking math concepts and applying them, putting them on the page. I think that's super cool in terms of like, you know, meaning and stuff. It's kind of, I don't believe in it, but it's cool. It's a cool way to work. Yeah, I know I really want to finish some pictures, but AI is better than you. Yeah, but it's not making your art. I think if you think of AI as like commissioning someone, except that someone is just like an amalgamation of everyone and it has no personality, it's like it'll never make your art, right? If you want to write, if I want to write a book about, you know, if I want to tell a story, and I tell the AI to tell a story, that's not telling my story. AI will never tell your story. It might tell a story, and it might tell a story that's written with very flowery language, and it grammatically very good grammar, better than I have. But the actual story is not going to be your story, and it'll just be a random story, and no one will care about that random story because no one cares about AI's random stories. Like, but people might care about your story because you are a person and people probably care about you, right? Like, I don't know. I would, like, if someone shares a short story that they wrote, I'd read it. Faye says, who the hell is devaluing their own art for AI on my watch? Yeah, Faye. I totally. No, but I mean, it's a very real concern. I mean, I think that's a question that a lot of people deal with, right? It's like, why do a thing when this other thing does it better than me, or this other thing does it? But again, I don't think it does do the thing better than you, right? You say that it makes art better than you, but it doesn't. It might make it shinier. It's like saying a spell checker has better grammar than me. Well, sure, but it's also not telling my story. Like, I still have to write my story, and yeah, I can run it through AI to check my grammar, or like, I could run a spell checker over it to double check my spelling. But it's not, like, if you just have it write something and it's in perfect grammar and all the words are spelled correctly, it's still not your story. Like, I don't know. If all you want is shiny stuff that's polished but has no like foundation, then by all means, I don't know. I just don't see the appeal as someone who makes art or who makes stuff in general, whether you want to call it art or not. Mindsy on YouTube says, I've been working with someone to create theories on symmetry and balance that are often very number involved, and proving various symmetries are very hard, especially in 3D. That sounds above my pay grade. Yeah, that sounds like it's over my head. Faye Helmet says, make stuff AI will never make what you make. Exactly. And this is actually, so I don't want to go on the AI rant, but this is a common thing that I have dealt with, and I know a lot of other people have dealt with when it just comes to like commissions. So like, why would someone commission me when there's other people who make better stuff than me? Right? That's sometimes a question that pops up. Well, the answer is because no one's gonna make the art that I'm gonna make for you. They might make something that is good or equally as good, but it's still not gonna be the, like, if you want, you know, Bob's art, the only way to get Bob's art is to have Bob make it for you, right? Like, it's not, at some point, art isn't about, like, it's not, you know, if you think of it as a product, then sure, some art is just going to be a better product. But there's also a way of thinking about art where it's like your art is your art, and it's there's no one else's art, right? Like it's if you want my art, you have to come to me. You can't have someone else make. Now, you might be able to find someone who's better at making art than me, but it's still not going to be my art. And so at some point, if I want a Virvez art, the only person who can make Virvez's art is Virvez, right? Like that's that's how that works. And so if you want to tell a story or you have an idea and you want to make it, then you have to make it. You could in theory commission someone to make you something that's based on your initial idea, but ultimately they're still the ones who are making the majority of the choices, and so therefore it's no longer your art. It was like you've commissioned it, right? So at some point, the only way to make your art is to make your art. I know it sounds pretty obvious, but that the idea that something else can make better art than you is irrelevant because it's not making your art better than you. It's making random other garbage art better than you or something. I don't know. And it's not even better at all. It's just like shinier, right? Like it's like saying that the grammar correcting robot has better grammar than me. Well, sure, but like, who cares? Yes, it sure does have a nice polish on it. And also, there's like just the joy of yeah, Flying Fox rant. Yeah, there's a lot of rant. Yeah, there's a rant counter. We've had a lot of rants, but honestly, we've had a lot more rants than the rant counter because most of the time it doesn't get added. But yeah. Also, there's not only just like you're the only person who can make your art, which I know is self-evident, but there's also just like the skill of getting better. I know some people call it like a skill stack, where like every time you learn a thing, it's a new skill you can use. So like, maybe you know how to draw, and maybe you know how to write, and maybe you can draw the stories that you write, and maybe you know some basic programming, and you can, program a story that as you read it puts up images or something, right? Or things you can click on that will reveal other things. Like maybe you program some basic interactive thing, and maybe then you learn how to build a website and you put that thing on the website, and maybe you also learn all these other skills. And like I feel like with art, there's just a bunch of skills, right? And so every time you learn something, you learn how perspective works, you learn how some color theory. That's just like another skill that you're layering on top. So maybe you're doing video editing and you know a little bit of color grading and color theory. Now you can apply that. You're not clicking that link. It's MapCrunch. MapCrunch is okay. I'll click it for you. It's a sound. No. Which sound is that, actually? That is flamingo check. Oh, it didn't show the flamingo, though! I'm still so annoyed that it's not showing... Oh, maybe it did. Did it show the flamingo? I don't actually know. I don't think it did. But yeah, so this MapCrunch is... This one's nice. This is a nice location. I'm not gonna paint it, though, because I'm painting something new today. Yeah, this is a nice location. Look, is this Iceland? Greenland? No, Troms. I don't know where that is. Could be. It looks... Oh, it's gorgeous, though. Look at this. Look at this location. What a beautiful place. That would be a nice location to go. Go down the road a bit. Man, imagine having a house out here in like this gorgeous scene. You just wake up every morning, you look out your window, and this is what you see. Can you imagine? I mean, their internet's probably not as good as mine, but maybe it is. Like, what a view. Imagine waking up to this every morning. I mean, except you probably get that one loud truck just zooming by. It's gonna wake up the whole valley. This is gorgeous. It's just so quite and beautiful view. I think this is Norway. Yeah, it could be in Norway. I have to Google it. It gives us the location. Let me Google. Hold on. Troms. I don't know where Troms is, but I suspect it's... definitely feels Scandinavian. Where is it? Yeah, it's Norway. Norway. Well, it's very cool. Omi, let's not do all the links. Let's I'm not gonna click on all the links. I'm sure they're all beautiful places, but I'm not doing map crunch today. I'm just painting from imagination today. Oh, it's a hydrate. Thanks for the hydrate. Omi, I'd love to see you paint some of those places though. And we'll do another map crunch stream here in a little bit, but not today. Today I am just doodling, coming up with ideas, trying to figure out what I want to paint. Azel, it's been a long time no see, or probably hasn't been that long, but hope you're doing well. Oh, it was wearing a flamingo hat. Oh, perfect. The flamingo check, the posture check it did show. That's excellent, Zomello. I missed the flamingo. Yeah, I did miss it. I heard the sound, but earlier today when it was redeemed, it didn't show. It showed a different one. I will someday just try them. Well, no, that takes time though. I'm not gonna try painting them today, and by try, I'm not going to paint them today, because I'm doing something else today. Today I am painting these environments. But yeah, it is nice to have a backlog of places that would be fun to paint. Just see them. I'm sure they're all beautiful. I'll click through them. I'm not gonna put them on screen though. Other people can look at them if they'd like. Ooh, we got a desert. Yeah, I like the desert place. That's very nice. It also might make my computer lag a little bit. Opening up links like this. Oh, that definitely looks like another Scandinavian. Oh no, never mind. There, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a lot of these places are beautiful. Yeah, gorgeous locations. You have some work stuff and college stuff to work on, so I'll be lurking. Have a great stream. Thanks, Sumello. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Happy lurking. You know what? What if we do a painting similar to this one, but we do like floating islands? Floating islands are always fun. Isn't there a reference images thread in Discord? Yeah. There's a reference image thread in Discord if you want to post them there. For like... Although, I mean, there's... Yeah. There is a reference thread in Discord. Concepts in music can be applied to art. Well, yeah. Art. That's another fun exercise or like way of working is to take music that inspires you and paint stuff based on that. That's a fun way to do it. There's a lot of really cool art, like ways to be inspired to make art. Yeah, music. Yeah, lots of things. Music, math, other narrative stories. just concepts, emotions. Yeah, a lot of cool things and ways to make art. And I think just having a lot of those like in your back pocket of like things like if you ever don't know what to paint, you can sort of lean into some of these concepts that'll help you make choices. So like let's make something based on an emotion, or let's make something based on a song that I'm inspired by lately, or whatever I've been listening to, or making music based on something else, or making art based on something else. Like there's all these ways to do it. um there's like the ways of combining things that are similar. There's using experiences and then using metaphor to describe them. Like there's so many little art, like I don't know, like creativity hacks, if you want to call them that. And I think they're all like really cool ways to explore and think about things and share experiences with people. There's no right or wrong way. Dressilla says, I'll save that first link. Really interesting how the clouds hung in the mountains and overall nice scenery. Yeah, yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, some of those locations are beautiful. Okay, so for this, I am going to make these shapes a little bit chunkier. Just kind of... Oh, not like that. Some good old lasso tool action here. These are going to be more hilly. And then on the hills, we're going to have these floating island things. I feel like these shapes can be like this. Okay, don't know what's going on up here. Let's get rid of that. But yeah, so mine's I still don't know if I'm saying your name right, but if you ever have any art that you've made based on math or music or other concepts that you've been talking about, I'd love to see them. I'm always curious with stuff like that. In some ways, I feel like that's way more artsy than I am. Like I don't, not in a bad way, just in a way that I don't like. I know a lot of people are doing a lot of cool things, and I'm always curious to see them. I just feel like a lot of that is above, more advanced than what I'm doing. Like I'm just trying to illustrate and design and illustrate cool stuff, you know? Maybe we'll put some light in here. Some lighting on the fields. I'm using a lot of lasso tool today. Which I don't know if that's a good thing, but it's a thing. Some purple. Getting some purple in there, which is kind of cool. That's a very yellow light, which I don't like. Don't like that it's so yellow. Mine just says, I'm currently waiting until we finish our ideas to release the art, but I'll make sure to let you know once we do. Yeah, it'd be cool. I always like to see that stuff. Just don't do the... I mean, just be careful. I mean, this is not so much about you or even to you, but it's more of just like a word of warning. That phrase, you know, we're waiting to do it until dot dot dot. That is recipe to never do it. Obviously, some things do need proper preparation and planning, but in my experience, that is, if I say that, I'm never gonna finish it. Like, I just know from my experience that, like, if I say, oh, I'm just waiting to do the thing until the time is right or until I do more of the work, it will never, ever get finished. So hopefully you do finish it. I obviously don't know anything about you, so maybe you will see it through, and I hope you do, and I would love to see it when you do, when you do. So I will look forward to that day. I very much hope that you do it. But yeah, just knowing myself, that would never get done. Even just like talking about a project too much to me feels like it's a way for like, because I get hyped about it, and then like once you actually start doing, or at least for me, so I'm saying you, but I mean me. Once I start doing a thing, or once I start talking about a thing before I've done it, like it, I make it sound more cool and exciting than like when, but like when I start working on it, it like I realize how hard it is, and then it loses that some of that like excitement because like the idea that the end product felt more cool than the actual thing is gonna be when I'm making it. Like, because I hype myself up so much, I'm like, it's gonna be so awesome, this thing, and then I start working on it, it's like, oh, this is so hard and it sucks, and then like, you know, like you lose the steam because you've built up this big expectation of this thing. And so I find just like not worrying about the expectation at all and just jumping in is the best way to finish something, because like then you'll make, if it's like, if you do a good job, it'll be good. And then, yeah, and you like burn yourself out because you, I don't know, that's my experience. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen to anyone, but that is a thing that can happen. That's why some people say like don't tell people about big projects. Although I don't agree with that either. Like I think it's fine to talk about a project, but I think it's best to talk about the work you've done on a project. So like you start and then you say what you're working on, but not what it's going to be. Otherwise, I feel like for me, you kind of do, you know how like, and I'm gonna make fun of Elon Musk here because he's hilarious, he's so stupid. But the like, you know when Elon Musk is like, oh, you know, self-driving cars, it's happening in 2 years. It's 2 years away, and then like 10 years later, he's like, it's 2 years away. 10 years later after that, or you know, it's like it's never gonna happen in 2 years. Like the work hasn't been done. Saying that it's going to be here in 2 years, you know, or you know, what is it? The next big AI thing. It's 2 years away, man. 2 years away from general intelligence. It's like, really? Because you haven't done the work yet, and you're saying it's here, but it's not, and like you're arguing, like, I don't know, and I feel like sometimes projects can feel like that, where like you genuinely do feel like it's you know, oh, you just got to do the thing and it's gonna be this big vision that you have. It's like, yeah, but the actual art happens, or the actual invention happens when you start making those choices. Like the people making the thing has to start like solving those problems, and those problems, well, they're problems, and it's they're difficult. That's what makes, you know, one movie different from another movie, but it has the same plot. You know, it's like because people had to make choices, and that stuff's the hard stuff, and that's also the rewarding stuff. And so having the big vision is kind of, I don't know, not to knock a vision. Having vision is good, but also it can feel a little risky. Also, what am I doing here? Other than yapping. Druffsill says, yeah, expectations grow so much you can never meet them. Happens to me all the time. Yeah, it happens. I mean, it doesn't happen to me as much anymore because I just don't have expectations. No. I don't know. I feel like I've been pretty good about not blowing up expectations too much. Minza on YouTube says, the end product is very strange and I don't promise many great results. I'm just waiting for my partner to finish the very complex explanations of the math. The only thing we haven't done is gotcha. Non-rigid, semi-congruent, high hypersymmetry in 3/4. I don't know what any of that means. I don't even know any of those words. I mean, I know what the word. I mean, okay, actually, I take that back. I know what all those words mean on their own. I don't know what any of them mean string together like that. That sounds. That, yeah, again, above my pay grade. I don't know what any of that. How do you do ideation without aiming for a big vision? I like the analogy of like a compass, right? You can have a direction, right? You can know the direction you're going, but you don't really know where you're going to end up. And also you can do like a creative. I mean, the same way scientists. I mean, in some way. So I'm not saying this is exactly what I'm doing, but an example of ideation or without a big vision is like science. A lot of science is just following questions, right? It's, oh, this thing's curious. What if I do this? And then you'd make a discovery and you're like, this is weird. I wonder why, right? The direction is the why is this thing happening, or let's explore it, and then you follow that thread, and pretty soon you make a discovery that's like, oh, that thing can has an obvious implication. Let's do that. And then 10 years later, you find the cure for a disease, and it's like, we didn't know that that's what we were gonna do when we set out. Well, how do you go from point A to point B without knowing where you're going, you might ask? Well, it's by following that thread, right? And so there's a lot of like exploration, there's a lot of curiosity, there's a lot of like, sometimes there's something that you're interested in that might give you a general direction, like a theme or a color or a mood, right? But it doesn't have to be, you don't have to know the end point. You just have to know enough to start making choices when you run into problems, right? So an example of that for what I do, right? So it might be something like, I mean, we can just give a silly example here. Well, it's not just, I mean, it's not so, yeah, but I mean, sometimes it's just like, maybe I like the idea of, I don't know, maybe I've seen a sky once, right? Maybe I see a sky and I'm like, oh, I really like this sky, and it has like a bit of purple clouds. Like the shadows are a bit purpley, right? They have the poofy clouds up top, and maybe I really like that, and so I want to play with that the purple cloud shadows, right? It's like a cloud, but it has slightly purple shadows, right? Maybe I just think it's a cool color palette, so I start playing with it. I'm like, maybe I can apply the purple shadows to the ground. Maybe I can put purple shadows on the ground, right? And so you have blue sky, maybe green grass, And then, of course, I have to have atmospheric perspective because that's great. So I start putting in some atmosphere. I put in some foreground, right? So a little darker. But again, I like these purple shadows, so I'm going to play with the purple. I'm going to put some shadows in. Maybe I put some back here. And then maybe I say, okay, well, what's casting the shadows? Well, we have clouds, so let's put in some more clouds. But maybe I want to play with the shape. Maybe I want to make this cloud of, I don't know, like, I need to make it a shape, right? What shape do I make it? What shape is the clouds? Maybe the clouds are, again, just pick something. Like maybe they're triangular, and so we put big triangle clouds in here or something. Or maybe maybe as you're painting, you think, okay, well, what if there was these giant pillars casting shadows on the ground? And so the shadows are purple, and we have giant pillars. Well, what are the pillars? Maybe they're towers. Maybe they're lightning rods. Maybe they're like, you know, so sometimes it's just a matter of like exploring an idea, like how can I make these cool patterns here? Or if I have these shadows, maybe I need some light, so let's add some light. If these are purple, maybe I want something like you know, the opposite, like a yellow or something, right? So maybe like a warm yellow, maybe I put some of that in, it's like light. You know, if these are very, very purple, maybe I make this very, very dull, right? Maybe I don't want this saturated. And so maybe I go that way, right? And so I start putting in some light. And at some point, I might stumble across something that I'm really excited about. Then you're stuck in that. No. So you might get to a point where you just like my science analogy, right? Where like you might just have a question at first, but at some point there might be an obvious application that's really worth pursuing, right? So at some point you can latch onto again, it could be a story, it could be whatever. And this example is a little weird because I'm kind of not going anywhere with it, but you know, maybe you have big towers, and maybe there's, you know, maybe you need to come up with, okay, I need to make a shape for the towers. Well, how do I decide the shape? What are they used for? Well, maybe if we're having something about clouds, maybe these towers are like, you know, maybe there's again, some sort of weather towers. Maybe there's like these things that stick up in the air. They're detecting maybe there's lightning rods, right? Maybe they're detecting the stuff from the tower, so maybe there's some lightning. You know, suddenly we have like a weather station or something. These big towers that are casting shadows, and again, maybe not lightning because again, we have light here, and that would be, you know, lightning oftentimes comes with cloudy skies, right? And so maybe we don't go that route. But you know, maybe we want to go like maybe all around it is cloudy, but then here there's like a break in the sky, and there's this blue sky. So we have the clouds up here and back here, but then we have this thing in the front. And like, okay, so now we're getting to a point where like these clouds and the light, and it kind of there starts to kind of make some sense. Like maybe there's some sun shining on the back of these towers. Maybe there's two towers. And at some point, maybe you don't like where this is going, and you think it's stupid, and you want to abandon it. But maybe you start to get an idea, like, what if there's, you know, weather manipulating, you know, a city that's built on manipulating the weather, and it's gaining energy or power from these clouds, and so there's the lightning that's striking, and there's these magical things that fuel the, you know, maybe there's like an energy thing coming down, and then it sends off all the energy into the, you know, into the countryside. So as these things get struck by lightning, there's these channels, and like suddenly there's like, you know, there's a bit of a story, there's a bit of a narrative. Maybe you can see the lightning striking back here too, off in the distance, you know, with the little channels of lightning. Because, and it all, you know, and again, it's like, well, how did I get there? How did I come up with that idea? Well, it's like just following a thread, and you start making stuff up. And at some point, you do eventually stumble on, like, a goal, right? You get what I'm saying? Like I didn't start with this idea, but at some point you have an idea that you do have a goal, and then you're like, okay, now I know where I'm going, and now we can start designing stuff. That sounds exactly like what a 10-year-old would explain with their new world just created in their color. Exactly! And then once you have that idea, right, then you can put on your designer hat and you can start, you know, researching, getting references, doing whatever. But like it can start very whimsical, it can start very silly. The goal of these for me is precisely to come up with an idea that I think is fun, right? And then from there, I can treat it a little bit more serious, or a bit more, you know, my methodology can be a little bit more rigorous if I want. But this early stage is just like, I don't know what I want to paint. I want to play around. Maybe I'll pick red, and maybe the red makes me think of fire trucks, and so I paint that. Or maybe it's making me think of, I don't know, blood, and so I want to paint something gory. I don't know. Maybe it's a sunset, and I paint something sunsetty. Maybe it has nothing to do with any of those, and I want to, do the opposite. Like, maybe if this is, an underwater scene, well, how do I paint an underwater red scene? Oh, that's tough, but maybe I can figure it out. And then I sort of go through that process of like trying to I mean, a lot, again, I feel like there's a, I mean, hold on, let's see. Minds says that line of thought is how I came up with the idea, especially with 343. Good explanation. Yeah, so I mean, kind of like Mindsy on YouTube said earlier with like, using music or something. Sometimes one of the ways is like, I know writers do this a lot, where you like subvert expectations, right? There's also that way. So it's not just like, oh, green makes you think of forest. You might say green normally would make me think of forest, but what if I made it a desert? How would that work? Are the rocks green? And then you have to start thinking like, okay, well, logically, maybe the rocks, instead of ground up rock that's orangey or white or whatever, maybe it's green rock. Maybe it's like, crushed jade deserts. And so maybe off in the distance you have these, green mountains. And then at the base of the green mountains, you have this green desert where all the rock has been, eroded, and you get these like lime green desert fields or whatever, like what, of thinly crushed, you have green sand basically. Like that could be a way to start. And from there, it's just like, okay, this is just an exercise in like painting a thing that is so different than what you normally paint. You kind of have to like logic through it, right? You have to start asking yourself like, how would this work? How would I paint it? Maybe you have to do research, but like that could be the idea. It's just subverting your expectations. Or it could be doing exactly what you want and putting a story within that. Like, I mean, we could stick with the green desert for a second, but like maybe there is a, like a Dune, for example, the movie Dune by Herbert, whatever his name is. Like maybe this green stuff is like a plant, or or a spice on another planet that is only unique on this planet, and the entire civilization is built around the acquisition of this green substance, and so all of a sudden you have like, you're designing machinery, you're designing creatures, all based on this green stuff, so there's a lot of ways to ask questions. Again, it could be subverting expectations, it could be leaning into an emotion and then saying like, what causes that emotion. It could be like metaphorical thinking, it could be applying like, there's so many ways to do it, and I think having all of them at your disposal so that you can like pivot if you want, and you can shift and play around and explore ideas. I mean, to me, because these aren't like the idea, right? This is how I get to an idea, and then once I have an idea, I can start playing with it. So like here I have some floating islands. Maybe, things can perch on the floating islands. Like, maybe there's an entire life up top. Well, I haven't drawn the tops of these islands, but what if there's like, dragons or something that live up there, and occasionally they come down, they fly down. Dragons are pretty cool, so let's paint some dragons. Maybe they fly down and they feed off of the things that live down here. So dragons live up on the islands, they perch up there, and then they fly down, right? So if you had an island up here, dragon is up here, it flies down, gets food, comes back up. Like, maybe it's something like that. And just by thinking about that kind of thing, you can start making choices of what you're drawing and how you're drawing it. I don't know. It's a very idea exploration way, right? This is not the same as I have a big idea and I'm going to make it happen. This is, I don't know what I want to paint, but I want to paint something, and so I'm going to start. This is like starting before you know where you're going, and then figuring out along the way. And then once you get there, you make the most of it. Yeah, I get it, sure, but that process is still very hard to apply when you aim for something more concrete. Yeah, it is. I think it is. Like, if someone has a commission idea, right, and they say, I want you to paint me a float, like, I don't know, floating island or a castle or a whatever, right? You can't just like wander off in a different direction and never do the thing they asked for. But there are still stages where you can, because there's a lot of things about that you don't know. I mean, this is what a lot of children's books artists, if you listen to interviews with them, there's kind of this phase where, like, you know, someone will give them a script, but it won't specify that the characters are human. It's just literally names, you know, Bob and Jane, you know, go play some kickball or something, and like then they realize, you know, can't these be animals? Can't I make these, like, why can't this story be, you know, kitchen appliances? You know, like, it doesn't have to be people, right? It doesn't have to be children. It could be young, you know, personified kitchen appliances doing sports, and suddenly you have like this whole playground, and that's the wiggle room, and learning to play in that and be like, you know, like, I think there's a lot of I don't know. I mean, I would never go in that direction. That's, you know, sometimes things are just too far out there. But the point is, even on a commission, like, this is where, gosh, I could rant about this all day. This is where the whole, like, AI bro thing annoys me to no end, is like the idea that you give a 2-paragraph prompt to the AI and you think that was your idea is crazy to me. Because, like, if you give that to artists, if you give the same prompt to 100 artists, you're going to get 100 different ideas, because they're the ones making the choices, right? The prompt isn't the choice. That's not like the actual, right? And that's where this is part of, like, in some ways you could call this like an exercise in making choices, right? And so yeah, there is some of this kind of like free-flowing thing. When, I mean, you have to learn how to ask yourself questions, and like, where's the lighting coming from? Where's, you know, why does this character feel afraid? Maybe that wasn't supplied to you, right? And maybe there's a logical reason that you have to just uncover by doing research, but like, maybe you have to make that up, and if you do, then that's going to lead you to another thing. You can still like accomplish a goal and a very specific task, and still have the freedom to explore ideas and design. I mean, design is another one, right? If I mean, I always like the example of concept artists for movies, right? And especially movies that are based on books. Concept artists still exist, right? They will take a, like, you know, there was that what was it? Like, I don't know, just take a movie like Harry Potter, right? That started in book form. And so the concept artists, they had vague descriptions of things, but they didn't know how it was actually going to work and move, and how the stuff is going to actually be on screen. They didn't know how that was going to look. And so you still have, there's a lot of wiggle room, right? There's a lot of planning and making sure that it fits with other parts of the story, making sure it fits the right mood and the right vibe. And a lot of that just comes down to like asking the questions, like, okay, I can make a thing that's floating, that's vaguely described as a, you know, thing with a sheet or whatever. I don't know how they describe the whatever they call them, those things that float. Like, I don't know how they describe them in the book, but like, once you're actually making those choices, like, what shapes do you use? Well, maybe you use some shapes that are, you know, like, you know, angular, or maybe it's a little bit more, you know, wispy, and so they fade into nothingness, or maybe you make them a little bit more solid, or maybe, like, you know, what colors do you use? I mean, maybe some of those things are described, but maybe some of them aren't. And if they aren't, you have to start asking those questions and giving yourself answers that fit with the rest of the thing that you've already done, right? And so there's a lot of, it's basically what I'm doing here, right? It's like, I'm just the one giving myself the initial conditions. And those initial conditions can be as simple as like green, or blue, or floating island, Or they could be complex, right? They might be, you know, Bob lives on a deserted floating planet in a lush green mountainous environment with dragons, and he has to survive the nights because the dragons come out to feed, right? Like, it could be something like that, and suddenly you're like, oh, okay, well, how's Bob surviving from dragons? Is he going underground and building shelters there? And like, now you got to design Bob's home, and suddenly you set yourself on a journey, but like, you still are doing the narrative, you know. Anyway, there's a lot of ways to work, and there's no right or wrong way. I guess what I'm getting at is, I think sometimes this can feel like it's without direction, but on a smaller scale, you're still asking and answering questions. They just might be less granular or more granular than you might get if you're doing a bigger project. They're just slightly different questions, but they're still questions, and you still have to answer them. And ultimately that shapes the direction that your art goes, right? And so, yeah. Anyway. Minza says, math is just making decisions and the correct answers is just a perspective like an art critic. Is that true? The correct answer is just perspective. I mean, I feel like math's a little more concrete typically, but I guess there's still perspective of things. Yeah, I mean, that's true. There's definitely examples. I think I know what you're saying. Although the whole... Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. Maybe. I mean, I know a lot of, like... Yeah. Maybe I don't know what you're saying. But yeah, no, I think this way of working is tough because, again, this is where... It's hard to watch someone paint and know, like, I mean, again, I think if anybody watched me paint, right, and who didn't know me or didn't hear me talk, they might assume that I know what I'm doing. I mean, I kind of know what I'm doing, but I don't know necessarily where I'm going, right? I don't know what the outcome's gonna be. I mean, sometimes I kind of have an idea, right? Like, when I make a choice, I'm pretty certain why I'm making it. Like, again, using the science analogy, which I know is a little bit, you know, I sort of don't like it when people pretend that things are scientific when they aren't. But there is a bit of like I know that if I, you know, let's say I decide that I want to change the scale of this. I know that I could make these things smaller. You know, I can make these dragons smaller than they are. And that's going to change the scale of this scene. But I also know that I could do that in other ways, right? I could push the atmosphere back to make it feel like these things are further away. I could make them physically larger, you know, to make the scale feel different, where there's more overlap. You know, I could even do the foreground to feel like we're really in the scene. Right? There's lots of ways to change scale. So it's not like the choices that I'm making are random, right? There's a reason. It might be, oh, I don't like the color, or, oh, I think the lighting is inconsistent, so let's add some lighting. Let's, you know, I think the things are too saturated. Let's tone it down a bit. But not in such a way that's going to make it feel like the scales change. So maybe I have to do it in a slightly different way, more deliberately or something, right? Maybe I do it this way instead. Keep the value the same. And so a lot of times the choices I'm making are very functional. They're not random. They're not based on vibes, but they're based on something isn't right, and I need to fix that, and here's all the ways that I know how to do that, based on my knowledge of image making. And I think that's more often not what I'm doing, is like, I'm responding to what I've already put on the page, and so there's like a, you know, like, for example, if I draw a line here, and I'm like, this is confusing. What is happening, right? Like, this could be a sandy shoreline, but this starts getting out of perspective, right? If this is a shoreline, this is not in perspective. It feels weird. So let's break it up, right? Let's break up those shapes. That way it doesn't feel like it's this weird disjointed thing. And there, now it feels like it could exist, right? Like now this feels like it's kind of in perspective. You have this shoreline way back here and up here, and you can't see the whole shape because that would be weird. And so I break up that shape and it looks a little better. And I knew it would look better because I understand how ellipses work in perspective, right? And so a lot of it's like that, where I'm just kind of solving little problems that I notice, you know, especially once I kind of already know the direction I'm headed. Like once I decide that this is a vast landscape with these giant, you know, mountains, things, creatures flying down, you know, I'm doing things to like adjust scale. You know, most of this isn't like I'm pretty much out of the crazy exploration mode now. Like now I'm just adding like little, you know, overlapping shapes, more trees back here for scale, and these are very tiny trees. These are slightly bigger trees, you know. Maybe I need a big tree in the foreground to show how fast that scale is dropping off, and so maybe I decide that the trees are this big. You know, not very big actually, but that way it makes it feel vast. Maybe I want more depth back here, so I add another layer. A couple layers. But yeah, so I guess I kind of move between, like, the ideation stage and this, you know, like, oh, I like the, you know, I like these tall towers. What if there was some floating? What if I made floating islands? And then I start making floating islands, and then I get a different idea. This one's kind of like cracked or broken. Also, this dragon is looking weird now. Let's move them. Maybe we need another floating island back here. That's kind of jagged like these, so that it can show more depth. And then if we do that, maybe there would be shadows being cast. And this is where I'm kind of like, you know, mathing my way through it. Like a render engine where I'm like, okay, well, if there's going to be this, maybe we come in here and add like a multiply layer so that I can add some shadows on the ground. You know, maybe the shadows will be bluish because the sky is blue, right? And so obviously I'm not going to make it, I could make it this blue, but maybe the sky is blue, and then in here we have like the light, you know, shining in, and there's going to be some bright light coming down. Maybe we get some light in here. But just in some spots. Maybe there's a lot of shadows on the ground. Right? And so you get little patches of light. Or maybe there's a lot of light, and then there's just little, you know, the sky can still be bright. But there's these shadows that cross over the landscape from these floating islands. You know, so maybe you get something like that. And it's like, okay, well now, you know, and I added those for a reason. Because, and also, but like while I'm adding them, it's not random, right? Because I'm also drawing these paths and lines. So I'm trying to guide the eye. So maybe we get some of that. And now I want to come in here and, you know, where this light is, I can crank this up, make it more desaturated. And I'm making it more desaturated because, one, the shadows are saturated. And so there's sort of like, in this case, it's a very logical way forward, right? Like, if the shadows are going to be very blue, I'm going to want the light to be warmer. I could make it like a bright, vibrant green, right? But I don't really want that. I want it more realistic, so I'm going to go more desaturated in my light source, because that tends to be how light is. But I also don't want it to be too bright, so I'm going to keep it pretty toned down. So here's my lighting. Maybe a little bit in here. A little brighter, I guess. You know, little patches of light here and there. I don't know. I find that most, especially representational art like this, right, is very much a mix between, like, fairly straightforward, logical things, like how light works and how depth works and how
you know, you perceive things. And also then there's also like the more loosey goosey stuff, right? Where you just kind of get to make it up as you go, and it's like, you know, that's the subject matter stuff. That's direction. That's your taste. All that stuff. Hello there, Just Fiction. But yeah, I like talking through how I paint. I do think a lot of times there's this perception that like you need to know exactly where you're going, and then artists are always just putting exactly what's in their head on the page, and I just think that is not the case often. Like even when you think you know where you're going, in reality, the way that you get there is not just putting your ideas on the page, right? It's starting to, and then you realize, oh crap, this isn't working, and then you have to figure out how to make it work slightly better than it is. And as you keep doing that, you have to keep solving new problems, and like by the time you're done, you're like, yeah, this is just what I wanted. But it's like, was it though? Was it really? Or did you actually have to invent a lot of things and make a lot of stuff up that because you just didn't have a quite as clear of a vision as you thought you did, right? You're confronted with this reality that you kind of were making it up as you went. Like, you like to think that you knew where you were going, and I think sometimes we tell ourselves that, and I think especially people, like when they talk publicly about art that they have made in the past, there's oftentimes this like, oh, I just had a vision and I wanted to get it out there, right? It sounds like they knew exactly what they were doing, right? Or I had this story that I needed to tell, and so I set out to tell it, and this is the result, right? And it kind of makes it sound like they knew exactly what everything was going to be when they started, and I don't think that's true. Like, having a story is different than knowing exactly how the story's told, you know? But I think sometimes we hear artists talk about it and we assume they had this perfectly clear vision. I just don't think that's, I mean, sometimes it's probably true, right? Like, obviously not everybody's full of crap. But I do think sometimes people are, I don't know. I think it's easy to fool ourselves a little bit. And of course sometimes we do know where we're going, but I think a lot of times people don't. I think you have directions that you know you want to go, right? You have some big goals, but the specifics are very up in the air. Unless maybe you're like a super skilled, you know, if you're really skilled at like 2D art, you can probably think and plan in 2D because you've done it a lot, and like when you think of compositions, you can, you know if they'll work or not because you're already experienced with working in 2D. So yeah, I guess it's probably not that far-fetched to assume that people are good at just putting what's in their head on the page, but I think initially nobody thinks like that. Right, like most people do not think in 2D with a square frame and a viewer in mind, right? You don't think that way. You think in 3D, and you think with, there's backstory and context that you understand as the viewer, even if it's not in your field of view, right? You aren't thinking about it as a picture frame or a picture plane or looking through a viewfinder. Like you're just not viewing the world that way, right? And if you close your eyes and have a memory, your memory isn't in the form of a viewfinder on a camera or on the big screen, right? Like it just isn't that way. And so like there's a lot of figuring out how to take that idea and translate it to something that the viewers understand. And that is a big skill. I don't know. That to me is like the big skill that is a little unintuitive. I don't know. I'm not great at it, but it's always a work in progress to get better at that. Also, let's put in some... Oh, I'm sitting on my foot. To me, the goal of learning art is to have a vision and act on that. Yeah, I think that's a valiant Is that the word? Valiant? Valiant goal? That's a good goal. Admirable. I like it. For me, though, that vision looks different than what I think, like, the layperson's term of a vision is. Like, I think it might be, like, a story or a goal, and to be able to achieve the goal through your skills as, like, a designer or a storyteller. Because, like, a lot of times the way that, like, you experience something in your head is not... It's never gonna be the way... Like... I don't know. I don't want to go in politics. I'm trying to think of a way to explain it. Like, you know how, like, if two people hear the same information... I think there's, like, this naive view where, like, if two people read the same thing, you're both gonna get the same thing out of it, right? And depending on what it is, you might, right? Especially if it's like a work of fiction, you might very well get the same thing out of it. But just because you're all presented with the same facts doesn't mean that you're always going to come to the same conclusion. And I think a lot of, like, storytellers, right, their goal is to basically make people not to come to the exact same conclusion, but kind of get them on the same page, right? Like, if you have a goal in mind as a, you know, if you want to tell a story, or if you want to have a vision and present that vision to the world, you kind of want it to present it in a way that they're actually going to understand your vision, right? Like, you want them to be on the same page. And so it's not as simple as just, like, putting it down as a bunch of facts and saying, here it is, now you know my vision, because they won't, right? They won't know your vision. And so it's basically your job as a communicator, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like visual storytelling is just communicating with pictures. And it's not as easy as just, like, giving them the info. Like you have to do it. I don't know. Visual communication's a little, like, I feel like it's kind of unintuitive sometimes. Which is, I think, what makes it so interesting. That probably wasn't a very good way to explain that. I think I kind of fumbled that. It's more feelings and ideas. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times, though, even if it's a very straightforward idea, you realize that to communicate that straightforward idea is not straightforward on the page. Right? Again, I always use the example, and I'm sure you've heard me say this, and I'm sure everyone here has, and I probably sound like a broken record, but the idea of, like, if you close your eyes and imagine a haunted house, right? You've probably have seen images of haunted houses, right? Or experienced a scary movie with a haunted house. And in your view, that probably looks like a haunted house, right? And probably when you close your eyes, you can feel that it's a haunted house, right? You could even imagine yourself walking through the haunted house. But if you actually were to put that image on the page, it'd probably just look like an old house. Like, would the person know it's haunted if you just looked at it as a 2D image? Probably not, because one, haunted houses don't really exist, or at least not in a way where, like, you know it is just, it's more of an experience, right? It's the feeling you get that it's haunted. It's not the visuals. Now, there are visual things you can do to indicate that it's haunted, right? Put a big, like, a tombstone in the yard or something, or you put, like, weird shadows that look like fingers on the walls, you put creepy scratch marks on the door, right? You can do things that make people unsettled, but that's not about the house, really. It's about the storytelling around it, right? Like, I don't know, there's a lot of, and I think sometimes you have to, like, invent things, because what's in our idea, or when you have an idea, right, you have all these feelings and emotions and story and history and context that's attached to it that you aren't always allowed to put that in the image, right? And so, like, if you wanted to paint a I don't know, a character design for like a really evil murderer, and we know that this person, went on a murdering rampage and like, has a whole trail of murder victims or something. Like it's easy. Like if we had a movie, right, you could just show him murdering people. Not that that'd be kind of gruesome, but like if you just want to do a single character design though, how do you do that? You can't show him murdering someone. You aren't allowed that. You just have to put a character standing there. You do it with their shifty eyes and their expressions. Like it's not as obvious as say, oh, this is a murderer. You have to like make the person feel like this is a weird dude, there's something wrong with this person. Like how do you make them feel that? And what is the visual techniques you use to do that, right? Do you make their eyes wobble? do you try to get a look in their eye to make it look like you're next or something? Like how do you it might not be as obvious as it might seem to someone who's never done anything visual before. Because if you're writing it, it's easy, right? You can just say it, you can show it. But to actually like bring that through without actually showing the thing, and it's all the little stuff, right? It's gonna be the, maybe they have maybe they're just walking around casually with a syringe in their hand. You're like, what the heck is that? That's creepy. Who does that, right? Or maybe they are, maybe there's just like it's the way they're, I don't know. Maybe they're, I don't know, again, I don't know how to do it. Maybe you do it with like the shadows and you intentionally make them look like they're shadowy and hiding in shadow and mysterious and a little bit awkward or something, and like you just give you the heebie-jeebies, It's like, okay, there we go. That's getting closer. Anyway. Also, I'm gonna paint on this for a bit. We're not gonna do voting today. Democracy is canceled. No, we are gonna go here. And then here. There. I'm just gonna paint on this for a bit. Have some fun with it. This is my chill day. Oh, what's happening? Why can't I? There we go. I couldn't make this large for a second. To draw a murder character, you draw a random dude and write on his shirt, #1 murder. I mean, the sign method is always an option, right? You put, beware of ghosts on the haunted house, or write, yeah, I mean, you could always put a person holding a newspaper that says wanted murderer or wanted for murder, and then you put the person's face on the newspaper, right? There are definitely very straightforward ways of doing it, but even those are creative solutions, right? Yo, wait, Wazoo Art, hello. Hope you're doing well. Ardra says, as someone who makes characters for fun, I agree. Character design, that might work. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Even a lot of like the most like obvious solutions, at one point they were probably kind of new, right? Like they were creative, clever solutions. I mean, you might joke about wearing a shirt that says, I'm a murderer or something on it, but if you were to make an animated show or something, or a movie where this character has personality, maybe they understand that other people will think it's a joke, but they'll know that it's real, right? And so you have this whole thing going on where like the person is a murderer and they are wearing a shirt that says I'm a murderer, but other people don't understand that they're being serious, because they just think they're like, it's just their sense of humor or something. And like you could have this whole thing where like the murderer literally wears a shirt that says I'm a murderer. And like it could be kind of good. Like it doesn't have to be a terrible design. So a lot of it's based on context and like what's the character's personality, and I don't know. I'm not a character designer. I don't know all the nuance on this, and I'm out of my depth here, but I think a lot of times there's options, and yeah. Okay, what I want to do is play around with the shapes of these. I meant by YouTube. Welcome on in. I meant by YouTube, not Twitch. Wait, what are you saying, Ardraws? I actually don't know what you're saying. There are some people watching on YouTube, but not many. But their chat doesn't show on screen. Nor does Twitch chat, actually. Nobody's chat shows on screen. Oh, you found my YouTube channel. Gotcha. Yeah, I also stream on YouTube. It's mostly for VODs, but occasionally people... Oh, wait, I didn't know that. You found me through YouTube. Oh, interesting. Wait, that must have been a long time ago, though. Like, you've been here before. But yeah, that's interesting. I found one of your recent vids. Gotcha. Yeah, so I have VODs, right? I don't really make videos like you know, like edited videos or anything. I just do the live VODs, the live videos from on YouTube. You think it was 128? Okay, so a couple streams ago. Yeah, it could be. That shirt design surely would do it if you had a geeky looking Jeffrey Dahmer type person. Yeah, I mean a lot of times, yeah. No, I think getting into design, storytelling through design is a really cool thing, because like there's not every design demands super clear visual clarity. Like if you're doing a, say, a video game character or something, like there might be a lot of story discovered through the gameplay that will let you understand a character better. So like it doesn't have to immediately tell the whole story. But then other times you do need the character to tell the whole story. Like say a side character, which I don't know if this is actually true, but I suspect one of the reasons that oftentimes main characters are kind of dull in comparison to all the side characters is because of that, where like you actually get to flesh out the main character through storytelling, but a side character needs to be more readable immediately. So you have like the quirky goth person, or the you know, all these characters with like quirky personalities and stuff, and then the main character is kind of dull because like they start dull, but they do have depth, but the depth is explored through story, but the other characters aren't. And so you kind of have this like flip-flop of like the interesting characters are all the side characters, and then the main character is just like a bland, they feel bland, but like they're not technically. I don't know. I feel like that's a common thing that I experience. I don't know if it's actually like a real phenomenon or not, or if it's just imagined. Might be true. Yeah, I don't know. It does seem to be the case that a lot of times, and I also think there's something, I've also heard this, which could kind of be a combination thing where like sometimes the characters, or like main characters, can be a little bit bland because they want you to be able to sort of like self-insert, like you can relate to the person. If they're a super out there niche, you know, character who's like super unique, it can be hard to relate to them because they have such a strong personality. And so sometimes main characters are a little bland because they want you to be able to like put yourself in their shoes. That I think that might also be another thing, but I think in both cases it's like it kind of supports having like a not super standout main character. Um what's the name of the song? So this song is it's a playlist. That's the playlist. It is by the McElroy family. It's a 4-hour playlist. I'm at hour 3, like right at hour 3. That's where that song is. It's also just the loudest song in the entire playlist, so it's like the most obvious. I don't know if they have names. Oh, it does. It is. The name of the song is... Uh... Okay, it is the... Hold on. The Aether Sea? The Adventure Zone. Ether Sea. The main theme. We'll listen to it again because I clicked on it. Adventure Zone main theme Ether Sea. I think this is the song, right? And it gets louder and it does stuff. I think this is it. If it's not this, it's the one before it, but I'm pretty sure this is it. And then it picks up. Yeah, this one. We're just listening to the same song twice, no big deal. Yeah, no, it's a good playlist. I like to listen to this on stream because it's exactly 4 hours long, or, well, technically it's 4 hours, 20 minutes long, but it's 4 hours long, and it's fun. It's a nice mix. It's chill. We get some Pride Rock looking stuff over here. Which is kind of interesting, I guess. I don't know. Kind of changing things as I go, which is not always great. It's a little bit of a generic landscape, but you know what? That's okay. What if these things are like taking off? They're floating. All of them. They're popping out of the ground. No, that one doesn't look like it's floating. No, maybe that's not good. Ooh, maybe these are sticking out of the ground and like they're cracking. So you have like this earth is crumbling all around it. Right, we were talking about developing the idea. So like here we have these floating islands, but what if they're rising out of the ground and so you have these dark cracks all along the ground as like these things are rising up. And then here we have similar shaped ones rising up out of the ground. Well, they're not out of the ground, but like... right? And so you have the rocks hanging here. And they're all kind of this like pointy shaped. So there's a little bit of storytelling going on there. This one is maybe like starting to peak up. And I like this way of painting because this, even though the story is super simple, like it's there's a little bit of story, right? And the story is basically there's, you know, or I guess it's more world building, but it's a type of storytelling, right? It's these rocks are emerging from the ground and they kind of rise up, but as they emerge, the ground breaks and cracks, which maybe leaves little like craters in here. So maybe we put like a crater in here, a dark crevice where there was once rocks. So maybe the ground is a little more bumpy. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it fills in with the water, and so you have these little puddles. Maybe that's what these are. There's little lakes. Oh. Little lakes where the water once was. Stuff like that. Just trying to think about this from a sort of a logical point of view. Like if these things are coming out of the ground, they're going to leave these craters. The craters will fill with water, right? Maybe where the water is, over time, there will be like, you know, maybe there's animals that drink there, or maybe the edges become very like lush and whatever. Or maybe there's a lot of erosion, and so you have all these like big pools and I don't know. All sorts of stuff could happen. So what am I doing up here? Do I just continue it like this? Kind of some funky shapes back here. I think probably a thing that I should do is put some light up here. I'm just making this up as I go, so I don't really know where I'm going with it too much. I mean, I kind of now know a little bit, like, because I sort of have this a bit of a not a backstory, but, you know, a little bit of a story in my head of, like, what this environment is all about. But I'm still very much just making it up. If I get a better idea as I go, I'll pivot. But I think at this point, I'm pretty much done pivoting. Although I still don't quite know what I'm doing with, like, the foreground. Or, like, these rocks. Do I want to go, like, maybe probably not red, but like maybe a grayish color that kind of makes it feel a little red. So we take the blue, we make it a little grayer, and I'm gonna put some of that gray in there. Take the blue, make it a little grayer. Just trying to gray up some of these rocks. Like that, a little grayer. Because not everything needs... Like, this is very green. We don't need these rocks to be so green. I mean, some green is fine. I mean, maybe some of these rocks have green on top of them. So, like, they have literal green. Greenery. And of course some shadows. And then these more rocks over here. More greenery on top. I think this is probably one of my favorite ways to paint. This isn't super novel or anything, but it really is just like a... You give yourself like a basic prompt, like, oh, there's floating rocks. And then you just kind of try to think about, like, if these things were real, what might you expect? You know, if they rise up from the ground, they're going to leave craters. The craters would probably fill with water because water likes to go downhill, right? And then, you know, if they came from the ground, maybe the tops of them still have that grass and that earth attached to it. And so maybe you have greenery on top, and maybe as they rise up, maybe there's bits of rock that falls down. You know, it's just stuff like that where it's like you're kind of... Obviously this place doesn't exist, but if it did, you can make it like there are things you might expect. I don't know. I think that's a big part of doing environments. Like, even if you just have a character walking through something, there will be things like, you know, the wind might be rustling, and if there are, will there be dirt in the air, or will there be leaves being picked up by the wind, or like, you know, just like thinking about the basic, I don't know, like nature stuff. It's not very novel. It's not very, you know, it doesn't take a genius to understand that, like, stuff is going to affect other things, but I do think I think it's easy to not think about that if you're doing, like, I just have a character and I want a background. And then you forget that, like, the background isn't just a background, it's an entire environment, and your character exists in that environment, and things affect other things. You know, if there's cars, there's going to be noise, and noise might mean people talk a little louder, right? Stuff like that. Okay, do I like the shape of this rock? Not really. I also don't like that there's no... Like, the shape of this is weird, because this is like... There's like paths here. So, like, how big is this? The scale is just awkward. Yeah, we've got a weird scale going on. Let's add some airbrush. Airbrush. Painting in. Stuff like that. Maybe more blue. Yeah, I'm not sure about this painting. Kind of fun, though. What if I go crazy blue? Make it even more fantasy. Okay, I think the issue that I'm having with this my main issue, not the only, not that it only has one issue, but my main issue is the scale of this central thing. So what if I take this and just make it larger? Put it in the foreground. And then maybe a little bit of a thingy over here. There, I think that's better. Yeah, that's not bad. Just a big old rock sticking out of the ground. With little smaller rocks on the side. Kind of vibes. There's little bits of stone bumps and rocks and stuff. I'm not describing everything super in detail. But maybe we do like some perspective in here. I don't know. Lots of ways to do this. Could also sketch in some light and shadow. I don't think I like the foreground here. You know what we could do? I have an idea. Water. Water flowing down here. I mean, that might be a little much. Maybe some rocks down here. Could even do, like, if we really wanted, we could do some, like, farmland type stuff down here. A countryside type thing. I don't know. It's kind of neat. I don't feel like these shapes, though, of these rocks are very good. Anyway. Classic floating island painting. It's one of my favorites. This kind of thing. One of my favorite painting type, you know, genres. If you, I don't know, do you call it a genre? No, not really. It's my favorite subjects, I guess. It's just floating islands, classic fantasy landscape. But yeah, it's very very graphical. I don't even know if I would call it rendering, because I feel like I'm just still doing the shape design. Like, if I wanted, I think this is where you could start, you know, picking out the rocks, and you could start, you know, painting on top of things. But yeah, I think at this scale, there is a certain, like, scale for landscapes. It's hard not to be too graphical. Because, like, you have so many overlapping shapes, at some point you have to, like, make things read clear. But yeah, no, it is pretty graphical. I have a lot of these very hard edges. Yeah, it's definitely graphical. I'm trying to think how to paint some of this. There's also not a lot of fill light in a lot of this, and so it has more of a, right, it has kind of a like these super dark shadows. Could probably put in some light in here. This is a little too bright, but yeah, it is pretty it is pretty graphical. That's true. But yeah, I think a graphical approach to landscapes is super useful. Especially like I think even if you're starting, I think it's probably the better, like a good approach. Maybe not the better approach, but it's certainly a good approach because it's more clear. It's more like simple and straightforward. Because real life is so messy. There's so much stuff. Like if this were a real place and you were doing a photo study of it, it would not be as like clear. Like some of your shapes back here would be darker, you know, and then up here you'd have light shapes, and you'd also have dark shapes up here. Like it would never be this like clearly separated, you know. Some plants are gonna be dark. You know, some plants are gonna be lighter. Also, you're not going to have this much like blue atmosphere back here as quickly. Typically, that's exaggerated, but that's, or I'm exaggerating it, I should say. Speaking of that blue atmosphere, though, we can put some more back here. Maybe there's some trees up here. No, maybe not. I don't know. I figure out what I do with what do I do with this foreground thing? Do I just keep it a big dark shape? Maybe. I don't need it there. I think it's better there though, because then it feels like there's at least like you know, three things: foreground, midground, background. I think without the foreground there, it feels a little. I guess what I could do is use this as like another mini path into the scene. So we do like a mini shape here, sort of something like that. Some of these are going to be rocky areas, so a little bit grayer. Lots of gray and brown. This stuff feels too... dark. Doesn't it? I think it does. Let's add it. Let's lighten it up a bit. Add some atmosphere. Maybe we come in here and take this shape again. Just paint right in front of it, just to create that overlap. Now, do we want these lines to go back here or not? Also, where's the light coming from? That's a good question, because I'm sort of got lost in the weeds here. I mean, it was gonna be this direction, which still might be the direction. But if that is the direction, then what about these? I don't know, but let's try it. Let's make a new layer and just start sketching straight on top. Very, very loose. I mean, do we go bright on the whole everything? Like this? Probably not. That's gonna be too much, I suspect. I mean, it's not bad, actually. Maybe it's the contrast. Yeah, it could be. The contrast and the amount of light could be a thing. I mean, I think, honestly, just, you know, we were talking about graphicalness before, or, like, how graphical the shapes are. A lot of it's just, like, if we had more, you know, more graphic brightness up here, like, in this stuff. And again, it doesn't have to be the saturated. It could be more like a wheat field type thing. But even just having more light in here would go a long way, I think. And then more distinct shadows at some spot too, right? Like, also we don't have any light on this stuff, right? This is, like, there's no light here. And I realize not all of this would be red, but that's okay. Yeah, the colors there is awful. Yeah, I think there's a contrast issue, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm kind of just... No, I'm not trying to treat this like a... I don't know, like a masterpiece. I'm a little tired today. I'm getting ready to end here, I think. I was actually thinking about maybe canceling stream today because I was tired, but nah. Yeah, I think a lot of, honestly, a lot of my issues with this painting right now is just, I think the scale, like, this thing feels like a small rock, or like a big rock that's made small, or a small rock that's made big. I can't quite tell. But it feels like it's off, you know? It's also, I think, yeah, there's some contrast issues. It's very dark. I think, honestly, lightening up the whole thing... Actually, let's try it. Let's take an airbrush. Just add in a lot of that fill light in here. We're just lightening up the whole thing. Maybe we want to add a warm fill light, though. Like a warm gray to the whole thing. Like, we have the sun, but we have no warmth. Also, this is the foreground, isn't it? We could probably go like this and just pick like a nice warm color. Like, we have a lot of cool colors over here, but we should have some warmth because, you know, literal sun. So that's a thing. Now, you don't always have to have a lot of warm light, but it does make a scene feel nice, you know, to just bring in like the warmth in here. Probably not like that. That's probably too much. But, you know, just enough. Or it just feels a little warmer. I don't know. That... Still pretty dark in here. Just adding a lot of little shapes. I don't know if it's good, but it's fun. It's fun. Also, this has been without references. Probably a lot of good references I could have used throughout this to make these shapes and forms feel more realistic, and scale references and all sorts of stuff. So many good references I could have used that I didn't. But that's okay. That's kind of what today is. It's just me having fun day. Playing with things. Classic floating island day, you know? I feel like you gotta do a floating island day every once in a while. It's very important. Very important. If you're not painting floating islands, what are you even doing? Like, are you even a real artist? Because clearly real artists paint floating islands. This little ring back here is kind of cool. So. Bummed I missed most of the stream, but this looks great. Ah, Vexchester, how's it going? Nah, you're okay. Today was a pretty chill day. We didn't do much. I mean, we ranted a bit. We rambled. It's been fun, though. It's been a kind of a sleepy day. Or it's not sleepy, but just like... I don't know. Low energy. Low energy streams. You know what? What if we do another river over here? That could work. I'm right there with you on the low energy. Yeah. It's been a long day. I've been up for quite a bit. I mean, I took a nap, so I don't know if that counts as being up for that long. But Yeah, I took a nap today before stream, but I more or less, I mean, I went to work at midnight, which it's only almost 3 p.m. now, or 2:30. But I don't know, streaming after work is already kind of draining in its own right. But I don't know, I haven't been in the mood for tons of art lately. I mean, I still enjoy drawing on stream and painting on stream and talking about art, but there's a little bit of like, I have to kind of get into the mood because I'm not immediately in the mood. Which is kind of a, I don't know, I'm not complaining. It's just kind of a, when you're already low energy, it's like takes extra energy to force yourself to be in the art mood. But I feel like as streams gone on today, I've gotten more into it. I don't always start in the art mood, and normally I can get in there pretty quick. One idea leads to another, which leads to another, and then before long, you're cooking. But today I felt like it took me a while. Yeah, I don't know about the foreground thing here, but it's kind of okay. I think that's not bad. It's nice to know that people also sometimes struggle to get in the art mood. Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, generally, I would say if you're not in the art mood, just don't. I mean, okay, that's probably not great advice. I think, for me, I think if you're not in the art mood, you shouldn't do art. Like, just don't do it unless it's your job. Then, in case you have to, right? Because that's how going to work works, right? You go to work whether you want to or not. But I think in general, if art is a hobby and you aren't in the mood, you shouldn't have to force yourself. You should paint when you feel like it. You should draw when you feel like it, right? That's kind of how that works, or at least it should. That's what hobbies are. I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like people give themselves this much pressure for other hobbies. Maybe they do, but are people like, oh man, shame on me for not feeling like skateboarding today? Like, no, you go skateboarding when you feel like skateboarding, right? You're like, I think I'm gonna go skating today, Like, isn't that what you do with hobbies? Like, you want to get together and go play games with your friends or something, and you're like, oh, I don't really feel like it today because, I don't know, I'm not in the mood, and then you don't because that's, like, I don't know. With art, though, I feel like we hold ourselves to outlandish expectations, like making it your entire personality, and you have to do art every single day. And it's like, no, you don't. You're allowed to just do it when you feel like it. Vex Jester says, I wonder if people put too much pressure on art because sometimes creating feels like performing and you want to perform well. Maybe. I think... I suspect there could be something like that. I think a lot of it, though... I think a lot of it is also, like, people... I mean, especially, probably just from online, a lot of, like, art YouTubers are professional artists, or professional YouTubers, or both. But I think there's this cross... Like, there's a sort of, like, a skill culture where, like, everybody's getting better at things and improving, and, like, you very rarely hear artists talk about art from, like, the hobby perspective. It's always like, I'm gonna get better, I'm gonna get a job, I want to be a professional, right? Like, it's... And I think if that's who you listen to and that's who you hang out with, it can feel like you have to pursue it and you have to keep getting better and you have to, like, improve. And I don't think that's true. And I think then if you're not improving or you're not doing it a lot, you're stagnating and your skill's not growing. And, are you even an artist if you're not trying to be professional? Like, there's sort of this like entanglement of, like, the professional and the hobbyist, and, like, almost it's like the hobbyist is getting consumed by the you know, the need to keep getting better. And it's like, no, you're allowed to like have fun and do it because when you feel like it and not do it when you don't feel like it. I don't know. I suspect there's something like that going on also, where it's like everything you do needs to be validated. Yeah, but also, yeah, I think you're right though. It's probably a little bit of the same thing, right? Like you feel like your worth as an artist is validated by how good you are, by your skill, by the performance that you do. I don't know, maybe all of it. Easier to go skateboarding when you make it a ritualistic meetup with friends, but I guess that's what art streams could be. Yeah. I mean, art streams are great for that, and I actually really love art streams for that. And which is kind of why, like, you know, you may not feel like meeting up with your friends, but if you do, you'll probably get in the mood after a while. But yeah, no, I mean, I just think most hobbies in general, people don't put the pressure on themselves quite like they do with art. When it comes to like doing it every day, you know, I'm making a goal to sketch in my sketchbook daily. I'm doing a daily study. Again, nothing wrong with daily studies, nothing wrong with sketching daily, but like this is not the thing you typically do with hobbies. Or like, you know, I'm gonna make sure I play video games every single day. It's like, no, you play it when you want. Like maybe even you play them too much, right? Like or something, you know, like, do we really need, I don't know. There's definitely a weird like grind set culture or whatever you want to call it. It's kind of weird. I don't know. Like I can't hate on it because I also sort of like the, you know, the self-improvement, skill building culture vibe. Like I think it's kind of cool and it's sort of motivating, and I'm, you know, I'm not hating on that, but I do think it can, for people who just want, it feels like it feels like when people talk about video games in a very competitive way, and then there's people like, dude, I don't want to be competitive. I just want to play the game, you know? Like, can you stop trying to act like everything needs to be getting really good at games? Like, you just want to play the video game, right? And I think some people probably feel that way with art, where it's like, they just want to draw. They don't need to get better. They don't need to sketch every day. You don't need to do studies. You know, like that's not fun. It doesn't have, I mean, it can be fun. I think it's fun, but like not everybody needs to think it's fun. And yet online we are judged by that. I mean, that's what people are judging us. Oh, your lighting's off, you know, your shadows are inconsistent, your anatomy's not quite right. Okay, great, fine. But also, like, I don't care. I mean, I care, personally, but you don't need to. You don't need to. You don't need to care about the things I care about. I'm not really one to speak, because I'm literally... I actually do like the... I mean, that's kind of what got me into art in the first place, is like that sort of idea that you can improve, or I can improve, and that's awesome, because I want to improve. Like, that's literally what got me into art, so... I am absolutely guilty of everything I'm kind of making fun of. I pick up a pencil every day, even if I don't feel like it. It just gives me more of a chance. Yeah, I mean, I think... Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing, but I do think if someone, you know, if enough people hear people like you or me talk about art in that way, it can make it feel like it's some weird compulsion that you must do. And I just think that's, I mean, I know some people talk about art like that, like, oh, I have to, and if I don't feel right. I think that is a self-made problem, right? Like, I think putting a pressure on us to do things, I don't... I mean, maybe making stuff is just, like, can be part of you. I don't know what that means, really, but I'm sure some people just feel like they have to be making things. But it doesn't have to be drawing specifically, surely. Like, it could be, you know, creating things by cooking, or doing other things, or building things. You know, like... This idea that you have to be doing art, and I don't know. I'm a little skeptical. Oh, yeah, it could be a Minecraft build. It could be playing games, right? A game version of creativity. It could be, yeah. I mean, there's lots of ways to like do a thing where you make something that didn't exist before and now it does. And like, if that's the, if you are someone who feels like you have this compulsion to make things, surely there would be ways to do it outside of this one very specific ritualistic, like you have to paint or draw every day. Like, no, you're allowed to branch out to other endeavors. You can go and, I don't know, build something, build yourself a shelf in your home. Like, that's creative. Figure out, do a redecorating or something. And you design how you want your home to be. Like, there are ways to be creative that aren't, you have to draw every day. And I feel like if people when you put those sort of expectations on yourself to like, you have to do more art, I feel like, I don't know, like, it feels a little random, maybe, like arbitrary. Like, why art? Why not other creative things? Yeah, it feels like it could get a little toxic, maybe, and unnecessarily so. Like, again, I don't think it's inherently bad to do that. Like, I kind of do that. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but some people, it definitely takes a toll on them, right? Like, if you are stressing out about like, oh my gosh, when I'm gonna find time to do art, and I have to do it because I promised myself, it's like, no, like chill out. You don't have to do it. If it's stressing you out, just like, don't. Unless, of course, it's your job, but that's a different story, because, again, work sucks, and you do at some point have to show up to work. Okay, I think I'm going to end stream here. This painting is... I don't like the shapes. I say I'm going to end stream, and then do I just not end stream? Is that just what happens again? The shapes feel chunky. Can I de-chunkify them? De-chunkify the shapes. Like smaller shapes in the background. The classic Joe, I'm gonna end stream right after I do this little thing, and then this little thing. Yeah, give it 15 more minutes. Casey should go live soon if you want to try rating her. Ooh, that's true. I could try to do that. Okay, I'm gonna end in 5 minutes, and then we'll raid Casey in about 30 or 15. That's how it works. I say I'm gonna end it right in 5 minutes, and then it doesn't happen. That's a good idea. We'll raid Casey in about 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whenever I end. So, but in the meantime, I'm going to de-chunkify these shapes. I'm going to make them a little skinnier, a little more spindly. Make them feel not as like a World of Warcraft setting, which, again, nothing wrong with World of Warcraft, just they like their chunky shapes. Gonna end 5 minutes ago. Yeah. Well, end 5 minutes ago, and then raid Casey in like 20 minutes. Okay. I mean, do I? Gosh, I don't even know. I think a big thing with this is like the colors and the textures and the variety in the blue on here. There's like a realism that's lacking from the like the lighting with the colors. Because like there should be like a blue right in the shadows, but also there should be a warm in the shadows. Wait, that's also the wrong angle. Hold on. Oh no. What have I done? I'm on the wrong layer. Oh no. Okay, whatever. This is the... There we go. This will work. Whatever. The lighting is all over the place, but that's fine. But yeah, I'm trying to add some of this like light blue warmth, or not warmth, but cool blue into the shadows, so that I have like a warm and a cool shadow. The warm shadow being like the bounce light from the sun. So sun comes in here, bounces into stuff, but then you also have the blue coming in from here. So you have these two light sources sort of filling out the shapes. Right? Like blue light coming down from here, hitting the shadows, but then you also have like a warmer color, maybe like here, kind of bouncing in. Because this is where the sun is going. Gonna add some darker occluded areas in here, just to kind of punch out this form, because this is obviously my main focal point. Maybe some of these are also like laying out over the ground here. I will say, I think I've improved lately quite a bit at like certain rock shapes, making these like sheared edges, the way they kind of just like cut off. I feel like that's something that I've improved at. I don't think I used to make shapes like this. Or maybe it's just like a pattern that I've stumbled in that I like. I don't know. I don't know if it's actually improvement or not. But yeah, I'm quite happy with this. Also, I think some of these shapes are kind of weird. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Probably should have done more with the landform here, with the crevices. Because this is supposed to be like churned up dirt, rocks with lots of dirt particles and cracked earth and, you know, muddied rivers. It's not supposed to be super, you know, pristine. I mean, why would it be, right? You got rocks levitating out of the earth. You're gonna have lots of messy destruction. Probably. Anyway, there's that. Yeah. But yeah, once Casey goes live, we'll raid her. But I do want to say thanks for everyone for being here. If you're on YouTube, thanks for hanging out and watching the VOD if you're watching the VOD. If you're on Twitch, obviously this is the main place. I stream here on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 11 a.m. Pacific time, which is the same time that I went live today, and every day, or every day that I go live, same time. So yeah, 11 a.m. Pacific time. And let's see, I also have a Patreon. If you want to support me further, you can do that. Patreon.com/jstiller30. Is that right? Patreon.com/jstiller30. I did not mean to type that in all caps, but there we go. Is that? I don't even know if that link works. Hold on. I just typed that out. I don't know if that works. Let me see. Yeah, that works. Okay. Anyway. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You know, I think this is what we did last stream. So I don't always paint overly saturated, weird colors, wacky landscapes without references. Sometimes I do use references and they look slightly better or more realistic. But yeah, this is something. Not every day is great in terms of outcome. Some days are better than others for the art we make. It can be a little hit or miss, I feel like. There's a lot of rambling, a lot of art talks and a lot of rambling. If you're new here, you like it? Yeah, I like it too. It's kind of cool. I like this. I like the shape. Or I like this thing. The main rock is cool. I almost feel like it would look better if we just cropped it and made it vertical like this. Like this would be a better painting. Like that, is that not just a better image? It's a better image, right? Am I crazy? That's just a better image. That happens a lot, where when I crop my image, it just looks better because you cut out all the unnecessary bits. Which, to be fair, is not a bad way of working either. Like, as long as you know what your main subject is, all the other things can help give you context. So, for example, if all I was doing was painting a rock, right? If all I was doing was painting this rock, would I have thought about the rocks floating up and then the earth being cracked and stuff? Like, I don't know. Like, the context gave me, right? This gave me that context of like, oh, this stuff is, you know, this stuff has, these are the rocks that eventually floated up, right? And then they have to come out of the ground. So these rocks came out of the ground, that the ground is broken. And so this gives context to it, but the image itself might read better this way. This gives more room to the floating rocks in the background? You mean like the real estate? There's more real estate for the floating rocks? That's true, because yeah, this one there's just a lot of foreground. And then this one, where is it? I can't do it. Okay, I have to recrop it. Yeah, this one, it is funny how when you make it smaller, you get more room for the sky, because you cut out all that other stuff. Yeah. I do think this is better. I'm just gonna call this the image. And again, I'll save the file, of course, so I will have the other stuff. I can always uncrop it. That's one of the nice things about Clip Studio, right? If I uncrop the image, it stays there. So like, I can always go back. But I think this is just this is, I don't know. I actually want to experiment more with this way of working, where you do intentionally like a bigger image than you know you're gonna need. you sort of, it's almost like a bleed for like a book cover or any sort of thing that's going to be in print, where you sort of you fill out the edges farther than you need, because you know it's going to, like, when you print, you're not just going to print to the edge, you kind of cut in, so that when it's cut, it has like a, so for example, you might have like a thing like this. So like if this was going to be on a card, for example, and you knew this square was going to be the area that you're printing, you would paint to the edge so that when they print, right, it even if it's a slightly misaligned, you're still going to have a full image. Well, what if you just take that to the extreme, right? And I think that's useful for the creative process, because then you can start thinking of, again, context. It's almost like doing like writing backstories for your characters, even if that backstory is never going to be in your story, right? You put it in there so that you understand it. And I feel like painting bigger could be a way to like understand your scene better. You can have some sort of concept in your head and it can fit together, even if you don't, you know, maybe the thing that sparked the whole idea is off screen, you know? It may not even be your focal point, but it's there and it makes its way into the logic of the painting. So that's something I want. Maybe I'll explore with that next stream. I'll paint really big with the intent that I'm going to crop it later. Or maybe not. Maybe it should be an afterthought. Maybe it's just like a habit to paint big, and then you can always crop if you need. I don't know. I don't know the best way to do that, but it's worth exploring, I think. Trying to find new ways of working. All right, it's 3 o'clock. Is Casey live? I was going to say, is Casey alive? I think Casey's alive. Okay, I'm going to end the stream here for YouTube. So again, if you're on YouTube, thanks for being here. I stream 3 days a week. You can catch the VODs after the streams, or pop into Twitch and chat and hang out.